It's the review of the year 2019 part 2. Hang on, it's 2018.
You fucked it up. On one of the first words, the first sentence.
I'm already adjusting to New Year time, even though it's not even Christmas
Wait,
yet.
what? Oh.
Okay. It's the review of the year episode. It's 2018. It's part 2 of 2018. We've been enjoying part 2 for about 6 months now. And we're going to take a look back at all the films we were looking forward to over the last 25 episodes or so. We are here, me, Alan, and over there it's Sol.
Hi.
Good. And joining us today will be a cavalcade of guests. But of course, we've got to start the show with our very, very, very good co-host, Calvin.
Boo!
Ooh, what?
Of course, Calvin, in this 6 months, you've abandoned us, as we know. You were briefly incarcerated. You're out now, though, so...
Yeah.
Okay, so we're going to be looking at loads of films, about 12 of them or something. We've got a few other guests popping in to talk about films, mostly people who we talked to on the specific episodes we were dealing with. For anyone who's new to our review of the year, basically, throughout the year, we've been looking at films that were about to come out. So now here, every 6 months, we just have a quick catch-up with a little review of all these films that we've been talking about. So, of course, if you want to go back and are interested in our thoughts on these films before they were released and our thoughts on the films that precede them, you can go look at our back catalogue. It's on dimreturns.com. That's our website. It's also on your podcast apps. Just roll back and find the ones you're interested in. So, the first one is actually tidying up from just before our last review episode.
Yeah.
Deadpool, the sequel.
Deadpool
2. So now I think we generally enjoyed Deadpool, didn't we? Even I enjoyed it, and I'm not really that sort of film.
Yeah. Did you give it an 8 even?
Yeah, it was an 8.
I think it was the comedy pulled you through. You were quite a big fan of... You like that kind of comedy. I think I was a bit more negative, but it was very much just pushing back against perceiving the film as being a bit overrated. I still enjoyed it. I think I gave it a 7. I like that it got made and that it was as successful as it was, but it really pulled its punches. It really played it safe. It felt like they thought, oh, this is so out there and kooky, people won't take to it unless we're really careful. And I was really kind of hoping that Deadpool 2 would feel a bit more confident in what it was doing and be willing to get a bit more out there and be a bit more off the wall, because people obviously respond to it. And... I mean, yeah, jumping right to the end of that, I think Deadpool 2 did go a bit further with things, was a bit more willing to go a bit out there, and as a result, I do think Deadpool 2 was superior to Deadpool.
Good, nice little pot review there. Potted review, sorry, not pot review. Yeah, just to give general thoughts. Oh, hello, who's that?
Oh, whoa, man, it's me, Stoner Calvin, dude. I heard you doing pot reviews.
No, it was a slip of the tongue.
Oh, get out of here.
We can't be bothered with you. Okay, so my general feelings were, I enjoyed the film. I felt there was enough new aspects to keep it fresh, but it was essentially the same as the first for me. I enjoyed it on the same level. I gave it I wouldn't give it quite the same rating as the first film, just because it was kind of like, I've seen this before.
Yeah, it wasn't.
But at the same time, I was happy to see it a second time. I don't know if it was just a third film with the exact same. I don't know about that. But,
Well, I mean, I don't know if they still are, but they were moving forward with an X-Force movie. And I don't know what that could possibly be if not this film. I mean, this film saw the creation of the X-Force and then killed them all off. And I mean, I love that about it. I thought that was great. I love Brad Pitt as the Invisible Man. I thought they got some great humour out of it. It's a fun film. I think it's exactly kind of what you wanted from more of the same. They tack it onto a Terminator plot. It's so derivative. The music even rips off the theme tune from Terminator, but at the same time, that's kind of all you want with Deadpool, isn't it? You want to see him doing fun, silly spoofs of stuff. Domino, the character who her superpower is she's incredibly lucky was used
I like
excellently.
that.
I thought.
Yeah, it worked really well with that.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where if you really give it too much thought, it's like
Oh yeah.
it's going to fall apart. But just in the concept of how they used it, yeah, it was really nice.
And so they had some great visual action sequences with her just sort of casually walking around and everything blowing up around her in the perfect way. They had the little New Zealand boy from The Hunt of the Wilder People, which was an odd.
I've never seen
decision.
him. I've never seen him in anything else, so it was fresh to me. But yeah, a lot of character there, a lot of personality there. That's what this film needs.
Yeah.
I mean, it feels like the actor has the personality rather than it's just written in.
Yeah.
Which is the same goes for Ryan Reynolds. You know, it needs that. This film wouldn't. I imagine this film doesn't work particularly well on the page. It kind of needs to be brought to life.
Josh Brolin was good as Cable.
Yeah, Josh Brolin's a good old dependable guy, isn't he?
He really is, yeah. He's got a weird affinity for doing superhero villains as well at the moment. But yeah, I thought he was good. Anyway, yeah, it was all right. 7 out of 10 from me.
I give it a 7 as well, yeah.
And as I say, for me, that's a stronger 7 than the first film, but not a lot in it.
To Calvin. Calvin's coming in now. We're going to talk about Solo, a Star Wars story. Okay, well, just quickly, there was a bit of shenanigans when this film was made, wasn't it? They had to go back and reshoot a lot of stuff because they weren't happy with it. Do you know the background of any of that?
Yeah, the directors got fired in the middle of filming, which was, or is, unprecedented, just doesn't really happen, certainly not on a film of this scale. You'll typically just hire someone to do reshoots if you're that unhappy with them, and they did.
Tell that to Bryan Singer.
Yeah.
But Bryan Singer was and still ended up being the credited director of Bohemian Rhapsody, and the credited director of Solo is Big Ron Howard.
Mr. Ron Howard.
Yes, dependable as ever, Ron Howard. The guy
isn't that just part of the problem, though? That he is just dependable, a safe pair of hands?
Yeah, I mean, I feel like we discussed all this on our episode leading up to Solo, didn't we? I think we said
we definitely talked about Ron
so.
Howard and how he's
him being a bland.
He's got a few crackers, though, hasn't he? You know,
he's made some very good films. He's made some dreadful films, but yeah, he's a Hollywood hired gun. He's a very dependable, safe pair of hands if you're happy with the script, I think, is generally the way studio heads look at him. He, of course, has ties to Star Wars because he was sort of unofficially offered. Was it the prequel films or Phantom Menace or something at some point?
I think it was Phantom Menace, before Lucas decided he was just going to direct them himself.
I mean, he was mates with George Lucas all the way back there. He must have been involved at the start. He must have at least known what was going on.
He directed
Harrison
Willow,
Ford, of course, as well.
Mm.
Well, he was in American Graffiti, which was before Star Wars.
Oh, really? Was he? Okay.
With Harrison
was. Yeah,
Ford, of course, as well. That's where Harrison Ford and George Lucas first worked together. So yeah, it's.
So no one could be better positioned, really. He's got
the lineage. He was there at the. Well, he was not involved, but he was. He knew them before they were famous.
I mean, I just don't know how this film went into production in the state it was in. Not state in like a bad use of the word. Just if they weren't happy with the direction that the Lord and Miller were planning to take it in, I just don't really know what happened, how they were allowed to get to filming it, because it's obvious what they're going to do with it, surely. And
apparently they were sort of encouraging improvisation and going off script, and that was the main point of contention.
I bet Ron Howard doesn't do that.
And I mean, again, that's kind
mind you, he
of
did
what
the
they're
Grinch.
known for. Yeah.
Jim Carrey must be doing a bit of that.
But that's what Phil Lord and Chris Lord, Phil Miller, whatever way around it is. That's what they're known for. They made 21 Jump Street. They're known for like comedies where they get funny people in and they're quite improv heavy. And it's weird that you wouldn't sort of at least have a conversation about how they're planning to direct it and on the set if that's going to be an issue.
Especially when they got through filming a big chunk of it, didn't they? Was it like 70% done? And I know they reshot some bits, but a lot of their footage still makes it in there.
Yeah. Well, like I say, the credited director is Ron Howard. So as far as the DGA goes, it must have been a significant portion of the film for him to get the credit.
Yeah.
I mean, it was a big dispute, that whole thing, but I think they ruled. Yeah, it's Ron Howard's film now. He's done whatever percentage of the directing you have to do to kind of get that credit.
And it put the film way over budget as well. Apparently, it was ended up with a budget of nearly $300 million, which is one of the most expensive films ever made, really. And I think a good third of that came about because of the reshoots.
Yeah. Well, from the sounds of it, they practically had to make a second film. I mean, as good as, and at the last minute, which probably doesn't help because it means you haven't got time to shop around for the best deal when it comes to hiring a new art department or location, whatever. Or it doesn't surprise me, basically.
Well, that's a bit of the background. How did you guys see this? Because it's saying a lot that I'm the Star Wars fan of the three of us, and I only just saw this film for this review. Really, I didn't see it at the cinema.
Yeah. I mean, I watched it like 2 days ago as well.
Yeah.
I went to see it at the cinema. I went to see Deadpool 2 on a date, and a man accosted us on the way out of the cinema, saying, "Oh, you come and watch Star Wars. It's out tonight, midnight release, Star Wars." And I sort of went, "Nah, don't want to do that. Definitely don't want to do that." And I think he was trying to drum up some sales because no one was going to see the film at its midnight release, and he was going to have to be in it till like 3 a.m, and no one was going to be there. And then I probably went back like the next week or something, just out of interest.
Oh.
So
I thought that was going to lead to an interesting anecdote about how you and this date ended up back at the cinema at midnight.
Well, I think she actually quite wanted to go and see it, but I was just like, no, I'm not going to a midnight screening of a Star Wars film. The people there will be insufferable. I'm not spending 2+ hours in close proximity with the sorts of people who would be at a midnight screening of Solo, a Star Wars story.
Wait a minute, I thought the exact same thing when you did go to a midnight screening of something. What was it?
Yeah, something good.
What was it?
Avengers.
Oh.
Yeah.
Look, right?
Higher caliber of person at that.
It is. And frankly, like, I wouldn't judge people going to like a midnight screening of a proper Star Wars. It's Solo, a Star Wars story. It's not a proper Star Wars, is it? It's like a little spin-off. No one cares about it.
Well, it's supposed to be a little spin-off, but now it's ended up being like the most expensive film in the franchise.
Is it really?
Yeah, because of the reshoots.
Fucking
it's like,
hell.
I'm pretty sure, actually. Even like, Force Awakens and Last Jedi didn't have quite the budget.
Even having to pay like Mark Hamill's extortionate acting fees to get him to come back. Wow.
Yeah. Okay, right, so what do we think of the film itself?
I actually went into this saying there was a really good chance. I think my official line before I saw it was that I was betting on it being either my least favorite Star Wars of all time or my favorite of all time, and just no like middle ground between the two. I could just see it going either way, and laying my cards completely on the table, I think to say it had so much trouble, and it's a film that completely has no purpose and shouldn't exist and all this stuff, I think it's surprisingly alright as just like a throwaway, disposable bit of sci-fi nonsense, which is ultimately all Star Wars is to me. I know it means more to a lot of people. So, I mean, I was kind of expecting it to be worse. I think it's surprisingly not as messy a film as I was sort of expecting. You know, compare this to Justice League, which is Frankenstein, schizophrenic. You can see the seams, like the insides of the film popping out through all these bits that have been stitched together. This feels largely like a film that, I could believe this was built from the ground up as this film. There's only one or two little moments that kind of give it away. So yeah, I don't know. I thought it was all right.
I mean, I went into it pretty open-mindedly, to be honest with you. Pretty empty-mindedly, to be fair. I had no expectations whatsoever. I was just like, this is a young Han Solo, right? That's pretty much all I had. I was all right with it. It was fine. With nothing great to say, but nothing bad either.
I have a lot of very positive things to say about specific elements. I also have a lot of very negative things to say on like the balance. I think it's all right. Calvin, you're the big Star Wars fan, so this is going to be the interesting opinion, I suppose.
Well, I'm exactly the same as you. It was just sort of all right. And in a way, that's more frustrating than if it were very good or very bad.
Yeah.
And I just find it a more interesting, like its place in certainly the Star Wars franchise now, and basically what the failure, we haven't really touched on that, but it did fail massively at the box office. And what that is doing to the franchise, really. I think it's interesting from that standpoint.
Yeah.
But yeah, otherwise it's just it's fine. It's passable entertainment for a couple of hours, but I don't think I'll be revisiting it anytime soon.
I think it has perhaps the best cast of a Star Wars film. Certainly in terms of number of actors that I like in it, which was it was quite jarring, honestly, because I don't think of Star Wars being a franchise where I can, watch one of the films and be like, oh, there's so-and-so who I like, and there's another actor I like. It's normally, the actors in Star Wars are normally people that are known because they were in Star Wars, for the most part. I don't know, it was odd. But this, you've got Woody Harrelson, who is a constant delight. I don't think I've ever seen Woody Harrelson in something and not enjoyed him. You've got Thandie Newton, criminally underused. Character.
Yeah, she gets. I was thinking exactly the same thing.
Yeah, she's
If we're gonna have her, let's have more of her.
Yeah, highlight of the film, but very, very brief and not really made proper use of. Paul Bettany is a real scenery chewing villain, which I certainly enjoyed. I'm sure
I wasn't that fussed. I mean, for the first thing, I was like, "Is that Paul Bettany? He's in everything. What the fuck is going on?" But yeah, it was just nothing quite there. I think it needed someone who was going to bring something really individual to it.
Well, he was a very last minute switch out, I believe, Alan. Originally, the villain was full CGI. I think it was portrayed by a different actor entirely. And Ron Howard was like, who can we get at the last minute to step in and just like do this as a human? And they got Paul Bettany and put some makeup on him, a little scar or whatever he's got.
It did feel very much like you've got 45 minutes to come up with a character makeup design.
Well, not just makeup design, like it feels like Paul Bettany's just been given the script. Like,
yeah, that's what I mean. I
ago.
think that is probably that. Perhaps that is it. Then maybe Paul Bettany didn't get a chance to put his stamp on it because it just felt very meh. Yeah, I think that's probably what it was then.
Yeah.
And Paul Bettany, I do like Paul Bettany, and I don't know. I mean, he can do kind of quirky stuff as well. But I think you need someone there with a real big amount of character to just really bring that to life.
You've got Emilia Clarke, who I
love her.
Like when she's put to good use, which she is here.
Yeah, she was good.
I mean, he's not an actor. Obviously, he's portrayed by an actor, but Chewbacca. I've never really understood the appeal of Chewie before this film, and now I get it. Like the friendship and seeing it like form between him and Han, I actually got really invested in the character. It's the first time that's ever happened to me in a Star Wars film, and I really quite liked it for that.
It does annoy me though that, and I assume they did it deliberately in this film because it's there in the Star Wars, but how much he just gets sort of pushed to the back and like never consulted. Or asked his opinion. It's just like, Chewie do this, Chewie do that, and
but
he does it.
I love that, like, they set him up as like, he'll eat people. I don't know. I love that scene where they meet. It's like as similar as it was to various Star Trek episodes where, like, Spock and Kirk have to fight and stuff. It was great, that whole sequence with them.
Cute meat.
Yeah.
And plus, don't you think when he was covered in mud and stuff, he looked more like Harry and the Hendersons than ever?
Yeah. Of course, you've got Clint Howard in here somewhere. You've got Warwick Davis. You've got all your usual people. You just pop
Jon
up.
Favreau.
Jon Favreau. Not a big fan of him in this, actually. To be honest, didn't really like that.
Do you like Phoebe Waller-Bridges?
Yeah, I've been saving her to the end because she's a very controversial character. I understand within the Star
Oh, really?
Wars.
That's interesting because it's probably my favourite character in the whole thing.
Absolutely. She was. I
likewise.
thought she was an absolute delight. I thought that character was brilliant. Loved her. Thought her performance was great.
And
I've heard a lot of people saying she's the worst thing that's ever happened to Star Wars, and they can't stand the character and think it's like an inexcusable bit of Jar Jar Binks-esque attempt at comic relief. I loved her. I thought she was great.
No, I really liked it.
Yeah.
There was definitely something about it being an English accent as well that just makes it work so much better.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
Well, they often have English accents, actually, the droids. Like, I think, oh no, Alan Tudyk, did he do English?
Yeah, R2D2 is Italian.
But I really liked her. I don't really know her. I know she's in Fleabag. I haven't really seen anything with her in.
Yeah, it's pretty much the first thing I've seen her in. Yeah,
I loved. I saw the show Killing Eve on BBC, and I know she wrote that, and that was really good.
But but it was a great performance as well, and it's often a tough task, that just a vocal performance.
And it was comic. It was a comic relief character who didn't go for the obvious sort of. Do you know? It was quite an unusual comedy character. It was quite an unusual persona that they put in there. I think most of the films were just gone a lot more she's crazy or she's stupid, and it was a lot more. There was more to it than that. And I've heard a lot of people complaining that it's it's a social justice warrior character because she's trying to free the slaves, and it's well, number one, I think you're missing the humour that it's done with. Number two, are you saying you're pro-slavery? I mean, what is that a problem for you that the character doesn't like slavery? Is anyone opposed to slavery now as social justice snowflake on the internet? Apparently, is that where we're at? Anyway, yeah.
Well, I liked it because it plays in. I think, and I presume this is deliberate, but it plays into stuff that we were talking about from the first film when we did our review about how these and there's a specific moment in this where she refers to restraining bolts as barbaric, which is something we talked about because Luke has them on C-3PO and R2D2 to stop them from running away from him or killing him while he's asleep.
One of the big fan favourite performances of the film that everyone was praising, and to be honest, the one I'm probably least interested in, least won over by, Donald Glover as Lando Calrissian. I've never really got the deal with Lando to begin with, which probably, it's probably because I'm not a massive Star Wars guy anyway. I'm not entirely sure about this Donald Glover hype. As, a big fan of Community, someone who's really, been very aware of Donald Glover from right back when he was writing on 30 Rock. I don't know. I don't like him as much as everyone else seems to. I don't dislike him, but This Is America, well, yeah, it's a nicely shot music video. The song's bollocks. Great.
I know what you mean. He is very of the moment. He's very much the darling of whatever the world is at the moment, and that's fine. And I think he's
he plays
got
the part fine.
Exactly. He's got enough to back that up. I agree with you that I think he is a bit overhyped, and I don't quite get it. I'm not really into his music that much.
I don't know if it's just that I know him too much, because it just felt like it's Donald Glover doing a sort of Lando Calrissian impression. It never felt like I'm just watching Lando Calrissian. I don't know, but
I don't know. I've always thought of Lando as I know that Billy D. Williams did bring personality to it, but it is a bit of a nothing character to me, in that they can sort of do what they want with it, and I'll be fine. And he was fine, he's good.
He was fine, There's another big cameo character appearance, I suppose we should address, which is the sort of almost a twist, I guess, at the end when Darth Maul appears.
Yeah.
Now,
was that Darth Maul?
Yep.
Because I thought, the one with the red and black face and all that's Darth Maul. But then it didn't look like him, and I was like, no, it's going to be someone else. But it's like the same species or whatever. It's like
No,
Darth
that's him.
Maul's uncle or something.
It's the
isn't
same
it?
actor reprising the role, but they didn't get Peter Serafinowicz to do the voice
You
because
see, I could tell it wasn't Peter Serafinowicz, and that's what made me think. But also, it's for the same actor who's now 20 years older. So
yeah.
maybe maybe that's why I just looked a bit fatter.
It's whoever's been voicing him on the Star Wars Clone Wars animated series is now doing the official voice. And
I know this caused a lot of confusion for some of the more casual fans.
To me, as a complete casual fan, I just thought, oh yeah, it's a prequel. It's set before The Phantom Menace. He's still alive. Fine. Then I read into it, and it's like, oh no, it's not. It's set after The Phantom Menace, and he's come back and he didn't die, and it's this whole weird shit following the Clone Wars continuity, where apparently he gets cut in half, and he keeps himself alive using like intense hatred, which powers the Force and allows him to live as like half a body, and then he gets spider legs put onto him, and I just thought, I thought, like, for fuck's sake, can't we just fiddle the timeline or something? Really? Do we have to? Oh, God.
Well, this was one of my major problems with the film. It was Kira's storyline, which was fine throughout until there was no ending. Her storyline doesn't get completed because it's obviously setting up for a potential sequel. Which really annoys me.
Which will never happen.
Because, exactly. But even so, just allow it to finish in this story, their relationship or whatever, even if it means she can move forward onto something else, that's fine. But the problem with it was that we didn't get that completion in this story, which was her suddenly running away. Okay, letting him go, but, you know, at the same time abandoning him, which would be a massive thing. With all the thing we built up for this whole film, we should have a massive effect on him, and we don't get to see anything. He kind of watches her fly off and goes like, oh, well, I didn't expect to hear that. And that was it. And so it was just really let the ending down and made it fall flat.
Yeah.
I thought the dynamic between her and Han was great. I loved their chemistry. I loved the sort of interplay between those characters. I thought there was potential to do something really interesting, really great with them, and it just kind of let it down. And I don't know how much of that is a product of this film being a troubled production, or I don't know. But it felt like a missed opportunity, really, to do something more than it was.
And then your Woody Harrelson character gets much more of a rounded send-off and a kind of big emotional climax to that. And like you needed that with her.
Yeah. Yeah, and I suppose last, but, well, possibly least, possibly not, I don't know. The main man himself, Han Solo, now portrayed by
Alden
Ehrenreich,
Ehrenreich,
who's
been getting all sorts of criticism for being awful, was going to acting lessons in the middle of filming.
Yeah.
How does that happen? I mean, seriously, how does that occur? How do you even get cast before?
I thought I've
definitely seen him in other things, and he's fine. Yeah, exactly. It's just
he doesn't have that charismatic spark that Harrison Ford has, but then a lot of people don't, and maybe they should have focused on casting until they found someone who did. But I think that was a big problem with casting this film. I think they were really struggling to find the person with that spark. I don't know. I thought he was fine. He was certainly the least interesting character in his own film, but
and there was a few moments that it was like, oh yeah, he's got the right sort of sparkle there. He's got a little touch of the old Harrison's in a little smile or something, like he was trying to do a couple of little mannerisms. But for the most part, it didn't feel like that character. It didn't feel like a young version of that character. It just felt like, and this is a Han Solo guy. Here's your hero, new person.
Yeah. I loved that they tried to make it into a sort of heist film. I wish they'd done that a bit more full on. It didn't feel quite as developed as it might have been. I certainly wouldn't be opposed to a Solo sequel. I feel like the pieces are in play to make something a lot better than this. Now they've sort of... But I don't know if that's going to be happening.
I can't imagine that'll ever get off the ground now.
The best you might get is them appearing in another sort of Star Wars universe film.
I wouldn't be surprised if there is like some sort of prequel put together and it's, you know, Han and Chewie plus, I don't know,
Lando
the guy from Rogue One or something.
Right.
We'll see, I guess.
I know that they put a hold on standalone Star Wars movies now. I think the next one to be released is the next episode saga next year, but then after that it's a bit sort of vague. I guess that as a result of this, they're not going to keep churning them out one a year.
Yeah,
because
and you know,
maybe people just fatigued.
Rightly so. Well, there was, so this underperformed insofar as it, you know, massively fell short of what Disney were expecting it to do for them business-wise, because they thought, fuck, it's Star Wars, everyone wants Star Wars. There's a whole load of theories banded about as to why that is. Some people are blaming it on The Last Jedi. I don't think that's particularly likely to really have played a significant impact into it at all. A lot of people are blaming it on the troubled production. I think that's also very unlikely to have had a significant impact, because the only sorts of people who are aware of the behind-the-scenes workings of a film on that level, you know, they don't account for a big chunk of cinema box office, I don't think. I do think it is just fatigue. This is not a proper Star Wars film. I think audiences are savvy enough to know that this is a kind of spin-off side thing. People are less interested in Han Solo spin-offs than they are in proper Star Wars. It was like, what, 6 months less than since the previous Star Wars film had come out?
Yeah.
And
that was because The Last Jedi ended up getting its release date pushed back, because that was supposed to be released in May so there was supposed to be a year, but and didn't happen that way.
And, you know, the reason Marvel get away with it is because they are all, you know, I know you disagree, but they are sort of their own distinct little pockets of this and that, and you know, at least superficially, the films are different. Whereas I think Star Wars hasn't really... I know the sort of game plan was to start doing, it's a Star Wars noir, it's a Star Wars musical. But that's... the first few films have all just kind of been, it's an action romp in space. They've all just sort of been that to one extent or another. And I don't know. I think this was probably pitched as it's the light-hearted caper heist film. There's some really jarring moments of comedy in this film, which I assume are Lord and Miller's work, making it into the final cut.
I guess.
Far fewer moments than I was expecting, but
probably fewer than it needed, because it does lend itself, that whole the Han Solo shtick, it does lend itself to comedy, or at least that kind of sardonic wit that he has, this very sarcastic tone.
It lends itself to a type of comedy. I'm not sure that, like, I don't know, there was some stuff at the beginning, like when he's gonna throw a rock at that alien, that's just very like, this feels like they're riffing on set and improvise. It just feels very different to the tone established in a Star Wars universe, and I'm not necessarily opposed to that if the whole film is in that tone and just kind of goes for it and says this is a different thing. But it's not. Most of the film's going for that kind of more bland, generic way of doing a blockbuster. So I don't know. It was an odd few moments that kind of popped out. And then, of course, you've got all the really just fucking cringy, yeah, but what's your surname? Who are your people? I don't have any people. Solo. Fuck off. Piss off. We didn't need that, did we? There are a few moments like that. It's just... Anyway.
And the thing there, it's like, the Kessel Run in 13
Oh god,
parsecs.
that really annoyed me. Oh god, I was furious. I was like, I don't want to see the Kessel Run. I don't want to see it. It's better like left to the imagination. Tell you what I loved was that Space Kraken.
Yeah.
That felt like a real kind of, this is new territory for Star Wars that we've not really gone into.
Yeah.
This is nice. Anyway, it was alright. 7 out of 10. Quite generous 7, I think, but I'm going.
Yeah, I'd go 6.
I gave it a 6 also, yeah. It could have been a 7 just on a general romp scale, but the ending let it down, and I gave it a 6.
It's fair, I think.
Yeah. Alright. Well, more on that when Solo, a Star Wars sequel comes out.
Which is never.
Yeah.
Alright, yep. What's next?
Jurassic World.
Jurassic World.
Oh, okay. I'm excited to talk about this one.
All right. Jurassic World: Fallen Kingdom, the much anticipated sequel to Jurassic World, which was a huge, like, behemoth of a hit. I think more than people were expecting.
Well, I watched this when it came out of the cinema, so we might have to start with you reminding me what happens in it, because I can't remember.
Well,
it's basically sort of the Lost World again for a bit of it.
Is it,
it's
is
like
it
basically
like T-Rex in New York or whatever it is?
No.
Just remind me quickly how you felt about Jurassic World, Alan, before we get into this. You hated it?
No, I don't think I hated it. I think it was sort of fine, nothing special.
Similar to how I thought. I think I was more positive than you, but I also thought it was kind of good but not great. I think Calvin absolutely loved it.
I do. I think it is probably my favourite Jurassic Park film.
Insane.
Obviously, that's nonsense.
That's wrong.
It's brilliant.
That is wrong, though.
Love
that
it.
is the wrong opinion. But so I mean, look, I'm going to preface this by saying I've had a really weird year at the cinema. I mean, this was the same as part one of our review of the year thing. I've just been loving everything I've gone to see. Everyone hated this. Yeah, it is very much what Jurassic World is to Jurassic Park, done with Jurassic Park 2, The Lost World, or whatever it was called, for the first half. And then it just kind of goes off and does something of its own for the second half. And it feels very much like a film of two halves. I fucking loved this film. To the point that it's currently, and I'm sure this will change once I've seen a few more of the Oscar-y films at the end of the year, it's currently my second favourite film of the year.
Hey, behind
Avengers Infinity War. It's not been a great year for films, if I'm honest. But no, I really enjoyed this film. It was everything I personally could have hoped for from a Star Wars, from a Jurassic Park film, and I think I think that's part of why a lot of people don't like it, because this is an unapologetically dark entry in this series, and in many ways it's darker than your average blockbuster in that it literally burns the island from the original films to the ground. It is just like, there it goes, it's gone. I don't know, it felt quite unusual for this kind of a film to do that. And so I thought the stuff where they are just kind of repeating the Lost World and going back to the island was the Lost World done well, which the Lost World isn't.
I completely agree.
Some of the most dynamic, brilliant action the franchise has ever had. Some incredible action sequences. Just had me everything I want from a blockbuster movie, basically, just in that first half of the film. Dinosaurs running about, characters I enjoyed as well. You've got Chris Pratt returning as Owen Grady and Bryce Dallas Howard as Claire Deering from the first film. I think we complained about their complete and utter lack of chemistry and ability to kind of play off each other in the first film. Now it feels like they are people who know each other and like each other and actually have some chemistry. I don't know if that's just because the actors have been around each other more. I don't know if it's a better director stepping in. I don't know what exactly that's down to, but I like them in this film. I bought them as a pairing. I thought Chris Pratt's character finally made sense. I know Alan was very concerned that it was just going to be, it's Chris Pratt from Guardians of the Galaxy doing quippy little gags.
Yes. Well, I was concerned about that, especially given the trailer. But then when I actually watched it seemed like most of the trailer bits was kind of, those were his little comedy shtick bits. Actually, I was all right with that bit.
He has little comedy moments, but I think the difference is it's like, this character just has a sort of dry wit that he lets out once in a while. And that isn't the same as Guardians of the Galaxy, where he's just playing a kind of doofus. It's like, this character's just making a few jokes, and it's very believably in character that someone like this would make that little joke under his breath.
The only comedy that came from him that I thought was a bit too much is when the lava's coming towards him. If you remember, he's been paralysed by something, and he's like, and he's sort of like having to flop his body over this
paralysed body.
Yeah, like, that's really odd.
Okay, so shall we tell you why you're wrong about this film being good then?
Hang on.
Are we getting to that bit yet? Okay.
The island is my least favourite half of the film, Alan.
Oh my god.
Because the second half of the film is when J.A. Bayona, the director of The Orphanage, takes over and is like, right, we're going to do something new with this now. Because this franchise cannot just rehash old shit until the end of days. We've got to start forging new territory. And they go, you know what? This is a sci-fi franchise, and it's the fifth entry in it. We've got to just kind of embrace that. And they go full fucking European horror movie, haunted house, Resident Evil video game mansion on you. It is just a ballsy move, bit balls to the wall, and I'm on board with it. And I can see how it turned people off, but I loved it. I loved the horror movie vibes. I love the idea of seeing Jurassic Park reimagined as a kind of haunted house horror film through the eyes of kids. Very European, Guillermo del Toro-esque kind of way of doing it. I'm aware Del Toro's not European, for the record, but
I completely agree. Actually, like I think this was like I get so bored of seeing these franchise films, like we were just talking about with Solo, where it's like you know how you're going to feel about it before you even sit down to watch it. There aren't going to be any real surprises. It might be like, oh well, that character I wasn't expecting them to turn up, but so what? The movie's still the same thing. This I was really like I wasn't expecting literally the whole of the second half to be the haunted house horror thing, and I was in a constant state of like, where is this going? Where is this going? I actually don't know what's gonna come next, and I really appreciated that, especially from such a big successful franchise to take risks. I thought was very commendable.
But anyway, Alan, come on in and complain.
Well, for a start, right, the whole horror house thing, it just felt like it was tonally a mess. It was not consistent. It was not realistic. It was.
Oh, I'm sorry. The fifth entry in the fucking franchise about bringing dinosaurs to life that don't look anything like real dinosaurs, and even though DNA has a half-life that would have been long, long gone, isn't fucking realistic enough for you.
But bit defensive. But the previous, certainly the first film, is sort of grounded at least in some sort of scientific reality. It's got its feet on the ground, whereas you and cloning the dinosaurs and creating new hybrids, I'm all right with that. But it was the dinosaur tiptoeing across a room and a Nosferatu shadow across the back wall as it like pulls the bed sheets down. I loved that. It's just fucking nonsense.
I must admit, I thought the twist was going to be that the dinosaur had imprinted on her as its mother and was looking to be like friendly to her, and that never came. Is she there when it's young? I can't even remember, but. No, I love that, because they say point blank, this thing is... You can't judge this against the original Jurassic Park, because we've had Jurassic Park 3 since then. We've had Jurassic World since then. And this is a continuation of that. We've seen raptors with human-level intelligence fighting with William H. Macy. We've seen all sorts of cartoony bullshit in Jurassic World. And after that's happened... This film isn't particularly any more stupid or silly.
But the way it's filmed, like the tone of it,
what it's doing,
it just feels like it's going from one thing to the next with no bridge in between.
Oh no, I'm with Sol on this. I thought that tonally it was quite, very well done, and it knows what it's doing. It's very conscious of it.
I think this is a film that knew exactly what it wanted to do, and that was just go for broke and do something a bit crazy and off the wall, and I'm on board with that. I hate like what Calvin was just saying about how big tentpole blockbusters kind of start to feel a bit samey. It's because they pull their punches and they have to play it safe. And I loved that this was a film that was just like, no, fuck it. We don't have to do that. We'll do whatever the fuck we want. We'll just do this little weird second film, and the third film it sets up as well. The ending of this film, like, I know there's a lot of issues with, things that are being set up there, but that final montage of just dinosaurs running amok throughout the world, oh my god, I was so in love with it. And I mean, a lot of that was leaked to the world as like not the exact same footage, but like early versions of that.
I remember seeing clips.
Just like the surfers, and there's that big... oh my god, you know what I've just remembered? The entire opening sequence. Oh, fuck me. That opening sequence
it's
is
brilliant, isn't it?
That is one of the best scenes in the entire franchise. How did you feel about that, Alan? You know the opening sequence where they're like digging up the bones from the previous film and out in the water, and it's like pure, it's gothic horror, but with Jurassic Park.
Well,
Alan.
I can't remember that specifically, to be honest with you. I couldn't say. Okay.
Yep. Big fan as well.
I wasn't.
I give this an 8 out of 10. I loved it.
I would give it an 8 out of 10 as well.
I gave it a 4.
I mean, that's pretty good for Alan.
No, it's not. It is my least favourite of the lot. I'm just looking at my...
All right, Incredibles. The long-awaited 14 years in the making
14
sequel. I mean,
years.
not quite, but certainly...
It does take a long time to draw all those pictures, though, doesn't it?
14 hour... What the fuck? Why? 14 years of gestating in Brad Bird's head is what I was trying to say. And he made a huge thing about how, I'm not coming back till I'm ready, till I've got the right idea. I've got all these ideas that I'm mulling over. I just need time to kind of put it together. Oh shit, Tomorrowland didn't do very well. Pixar, do you want to hire me to do something? All right.
Yeah.
Well,
Andrew Stanton and John Carter, isn't it? It's the same thing.
Now, don't get me wrong, but there is an element of like, really, this is the big idea that you came back for? That this is it? I don't know. It just kind of seems like the most obvious, overt. Yeah, that's how you do a sequel to that film, sort of sequel. And that's it is Pixar. They are very, very good at doing what they do. And I mean, I think this is a great film. I'm kind of being quite down on it. I really...
Well, it's hard when the bar is set so high.
Yeah.
It's difficult to not be slightly disappointed, because I'm probably exactly the same again with you, Sol, because I sort of came away from it feeling like really enjoyed the viewing and thought great action sequences, especially. Like, I love that whole starting bit with the Underminer. But yeah, there's just something about it that I just came away like,
yeah,
well.
I mean, I really liked it. I think this might well be my favourite animated film of the year. I'm still kind of mulling over whether I prefer this or Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse, which is surprisingly great. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, lest we forget, I think I gave the first Incredibles 9 out of 10, which is an incredibly high bar, like you say. So yeah, although I really enjoyed this, I don't know. It was a step down, I think, quite definitively.
See, in the first film, I was a little bit like, I wasn't really convinced. Whereas this film, I think, was better than the first. I enjoyed it more. I think it had a more, it had a greater sense of what it was and what it was doing, and the storyline was a bit neater.
That's very interesting that you think that, yeah. Because I think it's perhaps more grounded on a human level and more focused on not that the first film isn't, but I think this is perhaps more about the dynamic between this family.
Yeah, maybe that's why.
At the same time, I would say it feels messier and less neat than the first film. Not by much, but I don't know. I think structurally and what have you, it just feels a bit more sequel-y, like it's so much of the structure is born out of a film that existed beforehand. It doesn't quite stand on its own, and there's a...
Yeah, I mean, it literally starts at the end of the first film.
Yeah.
And I couldn't really remember what had happened in the first one, so I was a bit... like, for example, when it was all this whole thing about they discovering the baby had powers, it's like, well... Baby had powers all the way through the first one. What are you on about? But I realised they never knew that, did they?
I had that as well. I was like, but at the end, I'm sure that they saw it, and then I guess, maybe they didn't. It does depend on you knowing that first one.
They
very,
see it
very
from
well.
a distance, and I think just you're meant to assume they didn't realise the baby done it when it fights the villain. So we've got, I guess, two new main characters introduced. Bob Odenkirk voices one that looks like Bob Odenkirk, and the other one's voiced by, who's the other one? Catherine Keener. Yes, yeah.
Now, can I just say straight off, they introduced Bob Odenkirk's characters, and his name is Winston Dever. And I was like, that's like they're trying to say something Endeavour and it doesn't quite work. I wonder why that is. And then he goes, oh, this is my sister Evelyn. Or Evil Endeavour. That's her name. I wonder if she'll turn out to be a bad guy. So like right from the beginning, I was like, well, she's going to turn out bad.
Well, but like beyond that, she's just so blatantly the bad guy.
Who's going to turn it? Because it's like, everything's going like, oh, we don't know who the bad guy is. It's a secret. Well, it'll be that one then, won't it?
It's so blatant. I was convinced, she's actually... Yeah, it's a double bluff. And it's actually Bob Odenkirk who's pulling the strings and is the bad guy. And she is not. She's a good guy. No. Just a really obvious twist. But yeah, I guess on the cast of the film, we're also introduced to a whole cavalcade of new superhero characters, and I thought these guys were great. Just a mix of just very interesting powers, particularly the woman who makes portals. That was so visual.
Oh, that was great.
Such a Brad Bird thing to do, but put to such excellent use. And I liked how dark this got for a kids film. It gets genuinely quite scary by kids movie standards when all the parents and Frozone are being sort of possessed and mind controlled and turn into like villainy characters, and the kids have to step up and take over. I liked all that. I thought it was a great film. I'm being quite down on it. The action sequences were fantastic. Brad Bird is very, very good at what he does. It's just not quite as good as the first, if you ask me. And
I was worried from the trailer that it was going to be a bit like, oh, now it's the dad who has to look after the kids. Comedy fodder. And obviously they did that, but they managed to do it in such a way that they've felt very modern and kind of
It's
and
very
it
believable.
Wasn't like, oh, he's never had to change a nappy.
Yeah,
like it was very 2018.
One character having all this success while the other one doesn't, and their career kind of languished. I thought it was a very interesting
and
dynamic
there was
to explore.
There was definitely this element for Mr. Incredible of that it was like attacking his masculinity in some way. I think it was definitely playing on gender, but in a way that felt quite realistic, and he was like he knew that he couldn't really fall back on that. Like he had to stand up and prove himself in a different way, and then at the same time, Mrs. Incredible or whatever she's called, we actually got to see her kind of often doing her thing on her own and like seeing her full bag of tricks and stuff, and that was quite good. Although I did think they're on this like campaign to make superheroes look good again and like give them good publicity and all that, so they send her off on a mission. And the first thing she does is drive a motorbike like the wrong way down a road, like really fast. It's like, that's just dangerous. What are you doing? But yeah, it was good to see her like just doing stuff on her own. It was quite cool. What else was there? They got the whole thing with the baby, right? And there was a scene with a sentient, well, they're all sentient, but a personalized raccoon.
Right, yeah.
That was new, wasn't it? That felt very cartoony, very sort of child cartoony, which isn't quite what this franchise is.
I did think that now that you mention it.
That's interesting.
There's a point where it... Yeah.
It's just because the raccoon was like, it was just one notch away from talking with like Sacha Baron Cohen's voice. And like, it was just very, it was very cartoony. Because it was so...
I really like that scene, though. Great scene.
And the other kids felt like they were
fine.
Just sort of in the way a bit.
I
In
think
the
till
way.
the third act, I think they really got to do their thing in the third act, and I think they were necessary, in the earlier parts of the film to give the dad Bob something to have to do, because he's trying to deal with taking them to school, and Violet has a subplot with that boy. Don't know if that's handled as well as it might have been. It felt a bit like a reset button. That
felt like, that really felt like just a teenage girl being overly dramatic, but then it's like, oh, that is what they are, actually. So that's probably what, as a dad, that's the sort of bullshit you have to deal with, I suppose. Yeah.
8 out of 10.
Okay. It's 8 out of 10 from me.
I gave it a 7, which is 1 up from the first film.
Yeah, that's very good for an Alan.
Oh!
An Alan score. That's very impressive.
Yeah, I enjoyed it.
Okay, well, I think it's time for me to go away for a little bit. All right, give me a shout. Give me a shout when you need me. Bye.
So thanks again, Chris, for joining us. Chris Hunter. Just making a distinction there in case we have any other Chris's on the episode, because it may or may not be the case at this point. We're not entirely sure.
Okay, yes. So Chris Hunter joining us now. Chris, we talked. You guest hosted our episode on Fantastic Beasts.
I did.
So we will be talking about that in a minute. But let's first look at another film that you've seen, which was the sequel to Ant-Man and the Wasp.
That's the one.
Well, how did you feel about Ant-Man, Chris? I take it you've seen...
Well, the first one.
The first one, yeah.
I actually quite enjoyed it. I thought it was a bit of a refreshing change, because...
you're in my school. This is great. This is brilliant.
I think things were heading towards the stale end of stuff, and I think Ant-Man kind of zhuzhed it up a bit.
Yeah, that's how I felt. I loved Ant-Man. I thought it was a real, like you say, refreshing...
Yeah, it gave me vibes from like Honey, I Shrunk the Kids and that kind of stuff, the good old days.
Yeah. And Alan, I think, hated it. Thought it was just more bland Marvel. Yeah.
I was disappointed with it because I was kind of hoping for something a bit better. I thought, Paul Rudd, it's probably going to be quite funny, and I don't know. It just ended up being a bit similar to all the rest. Really, it was a bit.
Yeah. So, I mean, I had very, very high hopes for Ant-Man and the Wasp. I was kind of hoping for that sort of thing, but without all the production issues. So built from the ground up properly.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Big special effects set pieces, really exploring the concept fully.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. I was hoping for something better than Ant-Man, and I loved Ant-Man. Now, this film got like really, really good reviews. Actually, most of the reviews said that's exactly what it was.
Right.
I disagree. My general feelings on Ant-Man and the Wasp were that it was kind of exactly what most people are complaining about with Marvel. It felt very generic, kind of, I don't know, just sort of going through the motions. It had a lot of nice little touches in it, but you know what? I think personally it just really suffered from no Edgar Wright. I said in our Ant-Man episode, I'm convinced Peyton Reed basically had like everything storyboarded from Edgar Wright and all this pre-production work and visualization on scenes and stuff, and just kind of got to pick up everything Edgar Wright had done. And that's why the film worked as well as it did for me. Right. This one just felt a lot more kind of generically put together. I don't know, just less inventive, less fun. And there were some great little moments and comedy set pieces, but overall it just felt kind of messy to me. The villain felt like a really messy concept and idea that wasn't quite thought through.
Right.
I don't know. I mean, I enjoyed the film, don't get me wrong. It really did feel like, this is just another chapter in the Marvel handbook, and it's just kind of what most people have been complaining about that I've been saying Marvel haven't been doing.
But Big Larry turned up again. We always enjoy it when he pops in to a film out of nowhere.
Yeah, he did. Fishy Larry.
I was thinking, do you mean Lawrence Fishburne?
Yeah.
or Larry Fishy. He'd probably knock you on your ass for calling him that.
Fishy Lawrence.
But yeah, I liked him. I liked the way he played it and all that. I always liked a bit of Lawrence Fishburne.
Did you like Michelle Pfeiffer?
The Pfeiffer.
Well, that
Wasted.
whole storyline just felt a bit too like, well, I know exactly where this is going. We know exactly how this is going to end.
I didn't even... It felt so obvious. I was half expecting, like, oh, she's somehow the villain or something. You know what I mean? I was expecting something more from it, and it didn't happen. And then when she came out of the nether realm, face-coated in makeup, I was like, well, that... I mean, she's been down there for, like, 50 years. Maybe she's just been saving it until she gets back, but
for a big occasion.
Randall Park, you like him, Alan?
Which one's that?
He was, like, the comedy... FBI or whatever agent who was trying to learn magic tricks and stuff.
Yeah, that was a bit of an odd. That felt like, we're supposed to have some comedy in here, right? This is sort of a
Yeah, I quite like that guy.
I gave it a 6 out of 10, which is exactly what I gave Ant-Man. So yeah, pretty much as it was. But I wouldn't. You liked Ant-Man a lot more than I did.
Ant-Man.
So yeah. It kind of just, it worked as 6. Yeah, it was just like, I watched it. So
Yeah. Well, most similar. I gave it a 7, which is like, yeah, it was solid, and I enjoyed sitting through it, but I'm in no rush to ever watch it again.
Yeah.
I'm sure I will as part of some Marvel marathon.
I'd probably go about a 7 mark as well. I think, I enjoyed it. Visually, I really liked what they did with it. I liked the style of everything when everything went really, really small. It looked quite cool.
Yeah, visually, I felt... Kind of going back to what I was saying about Edgar Wright feeling missed from it, I think it just visually felt a lot more... Like, the choice of shots and that sort of stuff just felt a lot more pedestrian to me, and I do think that's just Edgar Wright not being there. But yeah, when they went into, like, the mini world and you got all the tardigrade things swimming around, that was all cool.
Yeah, it was a nice difference. You don't see that kind of thing that often in films these days. Yeah. So, when they went large scale as well, I like the sort of... I enjoy like a good kaiju film, so it was nice to have that kind of element to it, you know?
Yeah, I did love that, yeah. I like the idea that it makes him really tired to do that as well.
Yeah.
The scene with him struggling not to fall asleep, legit peril in a silly way. It was, I liked all that. One of the things that really let me down was reading all the reviews. They made a huge song and dance about the post-credit scene and how it's like the post-credit scene that justifies Marvel as a concept, and it was
just Stan Lee masturbating into a pile of money.
and then we get there, and it was kind of like they're sending him down into the little realm, and I was like, okay, so it is exactly what I thought it was going to be, and that they're all going to like vanish because Thanos has snapped his fingers, and then that happened, and he's trapped down there, which I guess is a nice little idea. Avengers 4 trailer came out, Avengers Endgame, and Ant-Man's not in the weird realm, so doesn't look...
Yeah.
Just knocks on Captain America's door, doesn't even look like it factors into the plot, so... Bit pointless,
Yeah, I'm very curious about that. I have no idea what the deal is there.
Yeah. Ant-Man and the Wasp. It was fine.
Yeah, it was fine. That sums it up completely.
Yeah, thumbs up. It was fine. That'll do. 7 out of 10.
We've already spoken to young Calvin about Jurassic World Fallen Kingdom, but Judey, I'd like to hear your opinion. I'd like Sol to hear your opinion.
I thought you'd never ask. I can't believe you spoke to Calvin about it. Considering Jurassic Park is my favourite film, so I have many opinions.
All right, let's do it. All
right, ask me a question. I shall tell you no lies.
Get my fighting gloves.
Well, come on, tell us how you felt about Fallen Kingdom.
Alan's drafted you in to fight.
Yeah, because I could barely remember what happened in the film. So,
well, hang on. I was present in the room when you guys were talking about Jurassic World, the first one, and I was giving Alan comments to say to you because I was disgusted at the shit that you were coming out with, Sol. What the fuck?
No, hang on.
It being a satire.
Hang on.
I mean, come along.
Hang on. So, do you like Jurassic World?
Well, no. But it was better than Jurassic World 2.
But you do like The Lost World.
I do like The Lost World. I was appalled that you gave it a fucking 2 or 3 or whatever the fuck you gave it.
But it's dreadful.
No, but it's not really.
Fallen Kingdom.
Yeah, but
everything that film should have been to begin with. That film done well. And then a haunted house movie on the end. Like a bonus. Bonus haunted house.
The dinosaur smiled.
I know.
The dinosaur fucking smiled.
Yeah.
No.
It was good, wasn't it?
Bring back Jeff Goldblum and Vince Vaughn.
Oh, it was brilliant.
And
it's not
fucking even Julianne Moore.
Judey, it's not a real dinosaur. They did bring back Jeff Goldblum.
That's what I mean.
They literally brought back Jeff Goldblum.
No, right, no, that doesn't count.
What do you want them to bring him back, or don't you? What?
I meant,
Wait, right.
give me Jurassic Park Lost World over that any day. Give me Jurassic
No way.
Park Lost
Well,
World
it's not.
over Jurassic World.
No.
Yes.
That's insane.
No,
That is just-
it's not.
No,
It's not.
no.
It was a blockbuster
Judey.
wank fest, and then the second one put the wanky cherry on top.
No, I mean I agree. The first one was a blockbuster wankfest. Yeah, Jurassic
Oh,
World.
and the second one wasn't?
Absolutely. No, the second one was a real sort of right. Let's kind of just do something fucking weird without concern for whether
It wasn't
or not this
trying
is
to
gonna be
do
marketable.
something weird. You're doing the satire card again. It wasn't trying
I'm
to be
not.
weird. It was trying to be marketable.
Are you kidding me?
It was so.
No, they hire. You genuinely think they hire the director of The Orphanage and let him make a film that is basically a European horror movie, and that's not on purpose? That's just by accident.
If it had been knowingly kind of bit tongue in cheek about the whole
It
thing.
was.
No, Soul.
It so was.
Soul. There's a bit where they're
You telling me they
in
Oh, I don't know if it's-
in a mansion museum, and there's a guy lying dead on the floor, and then it gets pulled behind the thing. There is no way that dinosaur would fit behind that plinth
Why not?
because it's fucking
He
huge.
was
So
being
I don't know.
sneaky. He was ducking
I-
that.
Yeah.
did
I don't know
it?
if
Little
tongue-in-cheek-
sneaky smile, and then flicked his tail and was like, "I'm gonna eat you."
Well, what have you got against a dinosaur having human intelligence by the fifth film in the
Human
franchise?
intelligence doesn't make it
after
fit
we've
behind a
had-
plinth.
No, but it accounts for it doing a sneaky smile.
No.
By the time we've had
Human
the
in-
raptors in the third one, and then the Indoraptor in the fourth one, I don't think it's that unbelievable that this one's going to be that smart.
How smart do you have to
no.
be to smile?
Like the bit where it's leaning over the bed and it like uses one finger to pull away her
Oh,
duvet.
that was magnificent.
No,
that was such
no,
pure...
No, a
that was such
dinosaur would have
Spanish
smelt her
horror
and
movie.
either eaten her or just put its foot down and crushed her. But the fact it's leaning over, like, oh, I can't touch her,
It's
I'm
not
just
a-
going to pull
it's
the
not
duvet
a
back.
It's not a typical dinosaur. You can't judge it by the same metrics you would judge the behavior of a T-Rex or a raptor by. It's a completely new being that's been
Then
made
it doesn't
with,
belong
like,
in a Jurassic World film.
Okay,
Well,
okay, all right, guys.
no one
Man
else
of
is- no one's
quotation.
willing to-
Come, stop.
No one's willing
Get
to
get away from
involved
each other.
with-
Stop. All right,
Let me at him!
we've established we
No
have
one's
different
willing to-
opinions, and it's obviously not
It's
going anywhere.
shocking.
So we've dealt with it. Okay,
Well, hang on. So, what would you have given it? What would you have given Jurassic World 2?
we've
for
already
the
heard in this very.
Well, I
episode
haven't,
already.
so
What
tell
did I
me.
give it? 8 out of 10.
Fuck
Best
off!
film of the year that I've seen so far.
Fuck off! I'm giving it a 2!
The reason I had to set you off on this was because Calvin agreed with him, and he thought it was good as well.
No! Calvin, I had so much respect for you. No. I did! I have a lot of respect for Calvin. Alan, aren't I always lovely and complimentary about Calvin?
He likes you as well. So we're gonna cast our minds back a few 5 months, something like that, to when Calvin first abandoned us. Calvin decided to put his life before us, and so we needed a new co-host. And
Was this the first?
Judey
Oh my
was the
God,
first
yeah, it
person
was
to step
me.
into the fray, even though it was Calvin who made us do Mamma Mia and then abandoned us.
and then subjected me to this, yeah.
Okay, so Mamma Mia as a film was very successful, and so successful that they waited 10 years to do another one. None of us really liked Mamma Mia, did we? So
Oh,
Well, it was-
I was defending it more than you guys because I thought it was harmless, harmless fun, but not a great film.
I like the ABBA.
I did
That's
like
what
the
you said.
ABBA. I do like ABBA.
If I was to just listen to the soundtrack, I would have thought they'd recast every single role in the entire film, because, I mean, one of our big bones of contention with the original film was the fact that nobody could sing.
are you implying that
remotely,
they're
even
better in this film?
competently? I think the vast majority of the actors returning from the first film were far better singing in this one, and I assume
I can't say I
What
noticed
film
any
are you
improvement.
watching?
Meryl Streep turned up to sing at the end, and it wasn't embarrassing.
Oh no, she
like
was.
it
Yeah, but
used to
she.
be.
I
Meryl
didn't think
Streep
she
always
was
could sing,
embarrassing
though.
in
The
first
reason
one.
that she's not singing well in that first film, I mean, we talked about this at the time, I think it's deliberate. I think they...
But that's it. That's what I'm getting at. I think you're right. I think watching
I
this
think you're
film
both- you're
with a
both
new
wrong.
director, I think the singing it wasn't great, but it wasn't
No,
embarrassingly
completely
awful.
the opposite. I mean, Meryl
Really?
Streep, I didn't mind in the first one, and I didn't mind in this one. Take her
I
out of
thought
it.
she was fine.
Okay,
in
but
this
take
one,
her
yeah.
out of the equation. All of the songs in the second film, apart from that one,
well,
were
hang on,
absolutely diabolical.
Well, no. So let's ignore the because it's a prequel as well. There's loads of flashbacks. So let's ignore all the new cast members.
Even
who
the
actually-
returning.
But who actually who actually does a song from the returning cast? So Pierce Brosnan does a
Bit of
a
SOS.
reprisal of SOS, which has worked quite nicely. But that's all like under his breath, so he gets away with it.
It's not just their singing, though. The reason I think it's different is because it sounds like, in the first one, they tried to do some of it with the music played and they filmed the singing live. And actually, I've seen some of the outtakes where Meryl
Did
Streep
they
was singing that.
actually-
Yeah, I've
they
seen some of the
actually do it
outtakes where they were
live?
doing that. And they were some of them were singing live. Whereas in this one, it sounds so kind of metronome, polished, clunky.
Yeah,
I am
it
singing
sounds
to a track.
pre-recorded.
Yeah,
dubbed
and
in.
it's
But-
shit. You can really hear the difference.
The first film sounded pre-recorded and dubbed in, and it was just bad. Whereas this sounds pre-recorded and dubbed in, but like they're kind of hitting the notes. And I think in a film like this, that's what you want. You don't want. It's not. This isn't a Les Miserables where there's a justification for having raw,
But it's
powerful
why not
emotion
do that?
shining through.
Why don't
Because
you
it's
do it like that?
fucking cheesy shit with Omid Djalili as the inspector, passport inspector.
There was just the problem was because it was pre-recorded. There's no power where there's meant to be power. There was no emotional weight where there was supposed to be emotional weight because they're
But
clearly
it's
just
ABBA, and
they're
you're
clearly
never
just
gonna get-
no. But it's not just ABBA. The way they're doing it is they're meant to be making it into a musical and a plot. So it shouldn't just be I can sing this song that somebody else sang.
I thought that's what they were doing. I thought they were just doing a crap plot and then arbitrarily dropping ABBA songs on it for no reason.
No. The first one is meant to be the songs are poignant.
I kind of resent this use of the word plot here. 'Cause, like, what is the plot in this film?
Well, no, that's exactly my point. It's part of the problem with this second one because the first one, obviously, they weren't in charge of writing the story. It's a stage show. It exists already. The songs go through and kind of create the arc of a plot, and it fits in with that. This one felt completely shit because the songs don't fit the plot. The songs didn't really fit with what they were singing about. It felt so shoehorned in, and then the point is, like the first one, the songs are meant to reflect what's happening emotionally in the story, and yet they didn't because they weren't handled emotionally. They were handled like studio productions of songs.
But they were handled like studio productions of songs in the first film. Just
No,
done
not
very
to the same
badly.
extent. Not to the same extent at all.
They were. You
No, they
can't.
weren't.
You can't honestly think the original film handled its musical production the same way the likes of Les Miserables.
No.
or
Okay, no, I'm
the
not
Barbra
saying.
Streisand Star
No,
is Born.
well, that's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying it did it better than the second one.
I disagree completely. I think the second one was a lot more glossy, which is what you're complaining about, but I think that's a good thing. I think that is what you want in a Mamma Mia. If I was to summarize this film, I would say this is the film equivalent of Queen Greatest Hits 3, where they really were
Some album
scraping
tracks
the
on
bottom
there that
of
I've
the
never
barrel.
heard of before.
Like, all the best songs are on the first two, and it's like, fair enough, they missed a lot of the first one, they put a second one out.
No, because
We open with When I Kiss the Teacher,
it's
which
a
we,
cracking song.
All my friends at school, they had never seen the teacher blush. She looked like a fool, nearly petrified 'cause she was taken by surprise. When I kissed the teacher, couldn't quite believe her eyes. When I kissed the teacher, my whole
oh, it's not. Come
It
on,
is.
it's such
I have to say-
B-side.
No.
It was just
Well,
like,
I
what
love
is
it.
this?
I love
I imagine
the
being
B-side
sat in
ABBA
the
songs.
cinema and all the middle-aged women going, oh, is it not just ABBA songs in this film?
No, middle-aged women's. I love by the women's. I love that you made the middle-aged woman into Calvin. By the way, when you just did that impression. But they all know those songs, and actually, they are my. I prefer those ABBA songs. As I said to you guys in the original recording. One of Us is a great song. Move On, Kiss the Teacher, Kisses of Fire. But my point is, these were all the songs I wanted to hear, and my heart broke when they shat all
Oh.
over them.
You were so glad they put Waterloo in this one, I bet, as well.
Oh my god.
My, at Waterloo, Napoleon did surrender. Oh yeah, And I have met my destiny in quite a similar way. The history book on the shelf is always repeating itself. Waterloo, I was defeated, you won the war.
Mama, at Waterloo, I thought I might surrender. That's my impression of the guy.
That also ties into what I was going to say about this film as well, which is just that I hated the characterization of the young dads.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
Colin Firth obviously was portrayed in the first one as being a headbanger, and like the point was he was meant to have changed, and here he was being this absolute wet blanket, wearing a leather jacket, and supposedly that's meant to be the same guy we saw in the photo from the first one, and that just doesn't work for me.
I wasn't a big fan of the young characterization of anyone.
Any of them,
The
no.
only characters that felt consistently the same characters were her two mates, the Christine
Yes,
Baranski
and they were
woman.
done quite well.
And
I
they
liked
were
them.
done. They were very good. I thought the actors playing.
They had proper funny bits and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but they've obviously just got these guys in for about 4 days worth of filming. Meryl Streep turned up for one afternoon. I mean, they obviously couldn't get them back properly, so they weren't putting the effort in.
Do you think Meryl Streep was even on set?
She was green screened in.
Yeah.
So in the first film, Judey had an insane fan theory that Colin Firth's character is supposed to be gay.
He's gay!
Because at one point he stands near a man with no shirt on.
No, that's not
And
what
so
it
I was
is.
waiting in this film for some other great
what?
gay evidence.
I
and,
have
it wasn't
to
there,
I have
was
to
it?
admit I was looking for it too, and it wasn't here in this one. But I'm sorry, it's definitely meant to be that Colin Firth is gay in the first one.
But to be fair, there's nothing to suggest he's straight in this one either.
Mhm.
No, it's true. It's just very ambiguous.
Apart from that, he has a child with a woman.
Well, yeah, and he's like,
Well, yeah, when he was
really,
younger.
like, he's really into, but he's very like into it. It doesn't feel like he's going with the flow and like, oh, I guess you're supposed to be with women. It doesn't feel like that at all.
That's the other thing as well, because in the first film we get all this story about how she was like slept with these 3 guys, but she was totally in love with all of them, so it was like totally fine. And then now we see it, and it is just like her being a slut, basically. So
Well, I never bought it in the first film. I said in the first film, it's just weird they've made a film out of like a woman having a kind of mad 3-day bender, which is like fine, nothing against someone doing that at all, but it's an odd topic to make a film out of and then act like it's
that's it. It's the trying to justify it with love that I detest.
Exactly. That's what I hated
I'm all on
there.
board with people just fucking because it's great.
Exactly.
The other thing that annoyed me about the plot is that the current day plot line is supposed to be like the daughter has finally got the hotel sorted out and they're going to open the hotel. Blah,
Oh,
blah,
the current day plot line was
but
bullshit.
Oh, it was all over the
But-
shop, wasn't it?
and then they keep going on about, oh yeah, this was Donna's dream and this is like she worked so hard for this. She never did anything. She lived there and did fuck all to it for 30 years. She
No,
finally
no,
dies,
hang
and the
on.
daughter goes, right,
No,
now I'm in
no.
charge, I can sort this place out.
She doesn't do nothing. The point is she has a hotel that just keeps kind of, no matter what she puts into it, it keeps crumbling. It's like a colander.
No. But what did, okay, so
She did.
how
she
did they fix
She walked
it?
around with a drill for half of it. Like, the point is that she used to have to do all the work herself. She didn't have a man around. It was just her trying to keep
Oh,
this
so it works
hotel
now
going.
because
Oh, yeah, 'cause you need a
she's
man
married
around
and she's got a
to
man
do
No,
it.
around,
I'm
so
not.
he's
I'm
done all
not
the
being.
work.
A woman
I'm
could
not being
possibly-
sexist.
Finally, a
I'm saying
man
this
to
is-
fix
Go around
these
that
things. Andy Garcia.
They make these comments in the film. You know, she's like, do you not remember that bit? She's walking around and she's saying, I don't need a man to do this. I'm so glad this part of
Oh,
my
and she
life's
pretends the
over,
drill's
blah,
a
blah, blah.
vibrator.
Yes. There you go. Remember that bit. And that is not the noise it was made, Sol.
There isn't a story. Meryl Streep isn't willing to come back for a full amount of filming. Well, how can we write her out? She's dead. All right, that works. We can do something with that. They're all getting ready to mourn her. All right, any conflict? No.
She's been dead for a few years, so it's not a lot of mourning going on either. They've all sort of dealt with it.
No real mourning.
You know how the husband's name is Sky, and that's not a real name, but let's deal with that. Then at one point she calls him, and there's a big close-up on her phone, and it says Sky Mobile. Is that just like the worst bit of product placement ever, or like they even named him that in the previous film to set it up?
Yep.
So, shall we deal with Cher?
Yeah, so she turns up.
So her face didn't move.
Well, yeah, Cher. I mean,
Well, there you go.
It's amazing how much it affects your singing voice when your top lip doesn't move, isn't it?
but that to be fair, that's that character.
Well, no,
Is
she didn't
that-
need to be in there. Why the hell did she turn up? She wasn't invited.
I don't know.
Nobody wanted her
does-
there, and she choppers in, sings a song, and has no impact on the plot at all.
Yeah, but do you know that Cher is currently on a worldwide tour doing ABBA songs?
No, but I mean,
She's
Is
doing
it because
sense.
of this film or during?
probably.
This
Yeah.
film?
well, she's doing a tour called Cher. Here we go again. It's like her doing ABBA covers.
So this was her way of launching back into a career.
Yeah. Well, either that or it was just a huge coincidence.
Well, look, right. I agree. It's bullshit cameo for the sake of it. Contrived, doesn't really make any sense. It works as well as any of this film.
Yes, and that's because the whole film is bad.
Well, yeah.
There you
But
go.
So was the first one.
No, the first one's better than this.
No, I don't think it is.
Well, I disagree.
Tell you what, the biggest improvement for me is I just thought it was directed better. We complained about
Oh my God.
how the first one felt like it was shot on a studio set. This felt like it was shot on an actual island. I assume it's the same
No.
location. It did.
No. So, you've watched them in the wrong order. You know this one's the prequel.
The first one felt like someone who didn't know how to make a film had been given a load of money to make a film. This one felt like a hired gun had come in to produce something competently, and I prefer the second. Did you not agree? I know Alan definitely agreed that the first one was shot really badly, and it
Yeah,
felt like
really
a
weird.
studio
It
set,
wasn't
and the
particularly shot well,
cinematography was
but this second
washed
one is
out.
worse in every single way.
Oh, it's not. This one
Directing,
is shot-
acting,
this is
singing,
shot properly.
producing, shooting,
It's-
all of it. No, it's not.
It's not.
So everything about it is worse.
Well, no, your complaints about the singing is that it's too good and that you didn't like
No,
how
it's not too good. It's
competently it was
bad, but the
done.
way it's been produced is that it's clinical and it's auto-tuned and is no heart in it at all. There is no point in having an emotional story with your songs, which is what they're meant to be there for, when they're shite.
Alan, I want you to weigh in on the cinematography in this one. Did you feel
Well,
like it was
I didn't.
overlit?
If anything, I barely
set?
even thought anything of it in this film. So that's better than the first film because the first
Well,
film
that's
was
it.
weirdly bad.
I was only aware of it because I was so aware of how badly it was done the first time round. I thought for the most part, most of the musical numbers actually felt like proper
No,
performed
Sol.
musical number pieces in this. In
How
the
are
first
you
film,
getting this so wrong?
In the first film, one of my complaints was that so much of it felt like that thing some musicals do, and I hate it, where they kind of can't be bothered doing a proper choreographed sequence, and it's just sort of like, oh, I'm off in my head imagining stuff, and that's bullshit. And what you want is like in the first film, when all those men in flippers turned up and did a proper
No.
song and dance sequence. And this second film felt way more like that bit from the first film.
Yeah, which was contrite and ridiculous. See, I liked the first one in that it felt like the songs were smaller scale, and it was to do with what the characters were actually doing. So, like, some of the songs, the beginning of Dancing Queen was like the two friends, and they were dressing up in some of Donna's outfits, right, trying to cheer Meryl Streep up, and it was all choreographed to do with the domestic, being in the home, being intimate, whereas everything in this one, you know, Donna's goes straight into Donna and the Dynamo and, let's say, Kiss the Teacher, and suddenly all of her friends and all of her teachers are doing pirouettes and throwing things in the air and doing a whole flash mob number. But it did that for like every song.
Well, in the first film, half the time it's like a performative, we're doing a performance of the song. Half the time it's like
And I like
bats
that
back
because
and
it
forth
changed
between diegetic and non-diegetic and all that sort
Yeah,
of stuff.
and it worked. For me, that worked. Like at the hen party when they're all singing Voulez-Vous around her and it's at a hen do, it doesn't have to be the same as the mother-daughter slipping through her fingers.
That's a very
You know,
it's just an odd thing to. It's the sort of thing I would complain about. That's what I'm getting at.
well, there you go. So,
And it doesn't even
don't know
bother
what
me.
your point is.
Well,
The point is, it worked a lot better in the first one because it felt like it was being handled with deliberate style, whereas in the second one, they went for a blanket wash of let's make it a spectacle, just like every other fucking film in the cinemas at the moment, and it was shit. I pretty much exhausted my opinion on it now, so Alan, why don't you say something before I kill Sol?
Well, can I just quickly point out, like, this isn't me being counter opinion here at all. I'm very much the mainstream opinion on this one, and you're being against the grain, just for the record. But yeah, Alan, what's your
Sorry, so I'm you're being mainstream on the film that you brought me in to have a woman's opinion on because it's a film based at women.
Apparently,
We
so.
did not bring you in.
Congratulations,
We did not bring you in
Sol.
to have a woman's opinion. We brought you in to have your opinion.
No, hang on.
Stop defining
if you listen
yourself
back
by
to your
gender.
first...
Yeah, you might have
If
made
you
a joke
listen-
about it.
Guys, you said it on your first episode. You said we brought Judey in
That's-
to have a woman's opinion.
That was our sarcastic, postmodern, heteronormative
My
look
point
at
is,
the...
it's there.
Sometimes we like to lampshade how things might be perceived by an audience by saying it, even though it's not
That's the
actually.
same way we pretend that we're all white.
But Sol, I don't think you should take pride in being the mainstream opinion when
I'm not,
all
I'm-
of the opinion,
I'm just
all
saying
of the people who enjoyed this film, I don't respect their opinions, and it was mainstream.
Well, no, I mean, just so.
All right, that's
The
enough.
IMDb
That's enough.
rating.
It doesn't matter. We've
Right.
dealt with it. Okay, it's all right.
Alan's
hang
like,
on.
what have we done?
Hang on, right. Should we look at the Rotten Tomato critic ratings?
Yeah, go on.
How much do you think the first film has? If you were to guess.
54.
Oh, that is remarkably close. Alan, want to take a stab?
Thank you.
55.
He's done you, Judy. He's done you. It is exactly 55.
Oh, you gave him a clue! Fuck off!
1-0.
I think no. I'm impressed with Judy there for like nearly nailing that.
Thank you.
How much do you think the second film's got on Rotten Tomatoes?
I have a horrible feeling it's going to be 63, but it deserves 37.
Alan,
91.
I can tell you now, the second film is 80% certified fresh.
What?
Alan, please tell me this is a shock. Please tell me that I'm not abnormal. You think the same as me.
Okay, here's the thing. Let me give you my ratings. I gave this second film 4 out of 10 because it's a bad film.
Yeah.
I gave the first one 2 out of 10 because not
Yes.
only was it a bad film, but it actually angered me. Whereas this one was just
Yeah.
a bad film, and that was the difference for me.
This one angered
The
me.
first one just annoyed me because it felt like it was just being deliberately manipulative
This one,
and shit.
oh
This one was just
no.
it seemed a bit shit.
Yeah. That was exactly how I felt.
Okay, well then I take it back. I am the anomaly, but I'm giving this one a 2.
What did you give the first one?
Like 6.
Really?
That's
Yeah.
Wow. I gave the first one a 5, a very generous 5. Didn't really. I think it's between a 4 and a 5, really. I gave this one a 5, but it's a much more solid 5, and I do think this is the superior of the two.
See, in which
But
case,
there's not a lot
Sol,
in it.
your rating not only does not match your opinion, but your rating is far more tolerable and palatable than Alan's. Alan, how have you ended up being the wanker in this? You said nothing for most of the analysis, and you come away with the one sounding like a chump.
I stand by it.
I do think it was a significant step up from the first film in pretty much every
Oh.
regard.
I don't know. I wouldn't say a significant step up at all, but
You think it's twice as good as the last one, Alan? You
Oh.
gave it a 4.
yeah, but that's because it was directed by a man, so I just gave it 2 extra points just to.
Oh my god.
It's just because my scores reflect cultural bias.
You are a cad.
Let's move on, and we're gonna step away from you for a while, Judy. We're gonna go back and talk some more films.
Thank God I can take a rest.
We'll be back. We've got some films to talk about. Just me and Saul, so we needed some alone time. So,
So hang on.
you're not here to argue
You're
with.
you're gonna sandwich your ones in the middle of my ones so that
Yeah.
I can't leave.
Yeah.
That's really mean.
We'll just go and watch Mamma Mia 2 that you got for Christmas for like an hour, and we'll call you in from the other room when you need it.
I'm not watching that film again.
Okay, so yeah, if we move on to Mission Impossible. I just watched this the other day. Didn't see it in the cinemas. Did you?
No, I watched a screener.
Oh yeah. Oh, I forgot you were in the industry now. Yeah, I mean okay, Mission Impossible. It's been going a long time. They do. And even with this film, I enjoyed it. I think they managed to keep it fresh. They keep managing to bring new, or at least bringing enough new blood into it to keep it going. And I generally enjoyed this film. Where did you fall?
The franchise in general, I've never been a big fan. I've always found, I know they're quite popular with a certain kind of person. Yeah, I don't know quite what happened. I genuinely enjoyed this one. I thought this was the right amount of balls to the wall action stunts with Tom Cruise just going for it. I thought there was enough. It just felt like it finally clicked for me. It finally all came together to the level I need it to be at for me to enjoy this sort of thing properly.
Such an exposition-heavy opening. Like it was.
Oh god, yeah.
Not a great start, because obviously all the films and the whole Mission Impossible thing is you start with a little tape going, oh, this is your mission, and it explains it all. But it was like 12 minutes long or something. It was just, and it was just so heavy exposition.
Yeah.
Plus, then there was quite a lot reliant on the previous film, which they don't usually
they haven't
do.
really done that before.
And
I
mean, when did we watch that? I couldn't remember it. It was about 4 months ago. We watched those films.
Yeah, I didn't remember
anything.
it much, but it didn't get in the way for me. I still,
It did at first for me, but then I was just like, okay, I'm all on board. That I remember the bad guy. I recognise his face. I can't remember what he did or what he was there for, but he's the bad guy. I get it.
And I still think it's a real shame that the franchise isn't doing what it used to do, which is let's get some interesting directors in, new on every film, see what they bring to it.
Having said that, though,
at the same time, this was really well directed. And
it was, wasn't
it's
it?
probably my favourite one of the bunch. I gave this one a 7. It's the first time I've properly enjoyed one of these films. And yeah,
well, it was somewhat shockingly well directed. I thought.
Yeah, it really was, wasn't it?
Not just, I mean, the action scenes were excellent, and for someone who's not really a big appreciator of action scenes, they were sublime.
Yeah, remarkable job.
And then there was some really weird choices. Like there was quite a few bits where there was like a lot of non-diegetic music, where it was just like we would see the scene, but then there would be music playing over the top of it, not really contextualized, and it was like they accidentally wiped the sound files from the scene they were shooting. They were like, oh, let's just sort of do it under some music and make it look arty. But it kind of worked. But it felt really incongruous and out of place, but also just felt like they were being kind of cool and kooky about it.
Yeah.
It was odd, but I didn't not like it. But it is the sort of thing that the Mission Impossible films have always done well. Like that whole... The helicopter sequence with the 2 helicopters and they're falling off the cliff and all that.
Yeah.
It's paced really beautifully. I never got bored.
And you just end up with a fight scene atop the top of a mountain or a cliff edge or whatever it is. It's very conventional stuff, but it's just done really well.
And it's a testament to it that you know exactly what's going to happen. You know Ethan Hunt's going to win the fight. You know he's going to save it with 2 seconds left on the clock. But you're still engrossed. And it's like that's the kind of where the Bond films think they are. We haven't got to them yet, but I think the Pierce Brosnan ones, that's kind of the level they were working at.
Yeah.
That kind of just really well done action set pieces.
Yeah.
Engrossed in a story, even though you know exactly what it's doing.
Yeah.
Yeah, very nice bit of work.
This felt like what people get out of the Bond movies to me, but obviously I've only seen up to Octopussy, so I haven't seen anything done with anything close to the amount of skill or gusto on
There was something about this that felt quite 1998, you know, it had that feel to it.
Yeah.
Not in terms of the quality of the graphics and all this. No, not that. It was all top-notch stuff, but just in terms of the feelings, not feelings behind it, but the thrust behind it of like, what are we trying to do? Show some cool action set pieces. It's kind of like when Fast and the Furious, like always. In those sort of 4 films, they were like, yeah, we're going to do old school stunts. We're going to drive cars down the road. We're going to flip them over and make them smash. It's so much more grounded and real. This has that feeling to it. I know there's a load of CGI in there. We're getting to a point where it's starting to be seamless. There's enough of a blend between real and computer generated that just looks so beautiful. Like, I believe that Tom Cruise is hanging off a helicopter.
Well, I mean, the other thing is, these are films that are renowned for, and I think very well known for, the real stunt work, a lack of CGI. I mean, what you're saying is true. We are starting to approach that point where CGI is completely flawless. But I think the reason it works so well here is because Tom Cruise does seem to have a weird death wish with Mission Impossible. He does seem to just want to go out dying in a big stunt for one of his films. And you know, the scene that comes to mind, I suppose, is the one where he breaks his ankle, like, visibly on screen in this film. and you can see it happen, and he's still... Like, he's such a pro, he just keeps going. But it comes across, it's like, oh, that looked painful. And, do you know, it really... The film gains a lot from that, and that kind of attitude towards making it. I'm surprised at how much I enjoyed it. 7 out of 10.
Yeah, I give it a 7 as well. But a really high commended 7, yeah. If you're into that sort of film, then you're well on board with that.
Yeah. Right.
Okay. What's next? Let's have a look.
The Nun.
The Nun. Okay, yes. I just watched this yesterday, I think it was.
You poor man. Scary.
Not scary at all.
Did you sleep well last night?
I slept like a baby because I had no fear of anything. Because this film did not work on that level.
So, you're not a big fan of these films at the best of times.
I'm not a horror guy, really. Yeah.
Yeah, and especially not like spooky haunted house jump scare horror with ghosts.
Yeah, exactly. I just think it's cheap. Basically.
But I think you were fairly respectful of The Conjuring and The Conjuring 2. I think you kind of said it's not really my cup of tea, but I can respect that it's done about as well as you could hope for.
Yeah, and with both of them, I think I preferred Conjuring 2, but with both of them, it was like the first half of the film is quite an interesting character story, and then it's like, ooh, ghost, woo, and it sort of ruins it at the end. Because it actually becomes real ghosts, and that's what loses it for me.
And I was, I was quite positive about them again, saying, for the kind of film it is, about as good a job of it as you could hope for. A lot of good, innovative, interesting stuff and designs and ideas being played with, well directed. All out the window here. Like Annabelle Creation was even good, or Annabelle Origins, or whatever it was called, the little spin-off. So I thought,
didn't see that one.
Maybe they're really locking in on creating this, universe, and they've really they're going to make an effort to make them all really good. No, nope. The Nun is a load of shite. Absolute fucking bullshit. Just every sort of cliche of these films. Not scary, boring, just so dull, interminably dull. And then at the end, it kind of bends over backwards to tie it into the other films far more than necessary. With a weird sort of cameo from the Warrens, Ed and Lorraine Warren.
Well, the main woman, Tessa Farmiga, I quite liked her. She seemed fine. I wouldn't mind seeing her in something else. Yeah, that's really all there is to say, isn't it?
Yeah. What do you give it?
I gave it a 4, which I think is quite generous, actually, now I'm talking about it.
I also give it a 4. So we're in agreement.
Next up, we've got The Predator, the latest in a long line of Predator film. Well, 3 actual Predator films, isn't there?
But a long line in the...
Wait, there's 4.
There's been quite a bit of time between each one.
But it's Shane Black, writing and directing.
Yeah.
So we were a bit optimistic about this, but... Or not but. How did you feel?
Well, this film's been completely slagged off, run through the whatever the phrase is. People don't like it. I'm continuing the trend of 2018 where I've been enjoying everything. I genuinely, I do not know what people want from a Shane Black Predator if it's not this film, because this is what Predator is. And I've spoken to people who say, oh, it was too silly, it had too much of a sense of humour. But I think those people don't understand how much of a piss take the first film was. The first film has such a sense of humour about what it's doing. And I thought this film was pitched perfectly. I've heard complaints saying it's too much like a Marvel movie with its jokes. I don't think that's the case at all. I don't think the sense of humour was anything like a Marvel movie. No, I wouldn't say that. I think
it's a very different tone of humour. It is humour, yes. But so, as someone who says Marvel does everything the same, this felt different. Yeah, different tone.
Yeah. So I really enjoyed it. It was silly, but it's a film about aliens coming to Earth and hunting them like prey. And so of course it is. It knows it's silly. That's like you couldn't make a Predator film that isn't silly. You could just make a Predator film that doesn't acknowledge that it's silly, and then the door's open for you to point and laugh at it. Whereas this film's kind of openly aware of what it's doing, and so you kind of go, yeah, fine, cool. So I really liked it. Don't know how you felt about it.
I'm kind of fallen in the middle here. I'm not quite sure how I feel about it, because I enjoyed a lot of aspects of it, but there was quite a few bits where I was just like this. It felt like a script out of date. It felt like a 30-year-old script or a 25-year-old script maybe that was sort of tagging on all these elements that you just don't really see anymore. I don't know if that was a deliberate harking back, but then it wasn't an obvious like, hey, I'm doing a 90s film. And so I just didn't know quite where to sit with it. Just for example, the boy being autistic and that's some sort of like magic autism powers that means he can do all these things. that is such a 1998 kind of thing to do. I mean, one of the major problems, I think, the main character, our main protagonist, whatever his name is,
very
the
bland.
Actor, I mean, we're talking Jeremy Renner bland. I mean, really bland, especially in a film full of character.
Well, I was going to say he's got so many big personalities around him. I think it doesn't matter too much. You've got Keegan-Michael Key, you've got Olivia Munn, you've got Jake Busey coming along as the son of the... Well, implication being he's the son of the character from Predator 2, played by his dad, which I loved.
Well, that main guy, he gets stuck with this ragtag bunch of military misfits. And they're all these big characters because they've all been put on this bus because they're a bit mental. And that was another thing, all these characters are okay, what bit of mentalness are you going to have? And it wasn't, I don't know, it just wasn't handled very carefully or... Well, I think that's deliberate. I think it's just hey, we're going to play these big... But having said that, it also felt like actors making a genuine attempt to display a particular mental illness, albeit in a very Hollywood kind of way. It felt sincere. Yeah, but this is not a film where you're going to get a deep, insightful look at mental illness. It's a film where the mental characters are going to pick up a gun and shoot people. And I was just about okay with that. I think it just fell on the right side of it. I felt that the actors were doing it respectfully. Even if it was being played for laughs, it was kind of in a way. Yeah,
I don't think it was ever making fun of people with disabilities. It was kind of saying it was more like a sense of, God, doesn't it suck when this happens to us guys, eh? Oh, this is a little insight of what it's like to deal with this condition. It felt more like that, if that makes sense, than mocking.
It's one of those things where I don't know enough about it either to kind of go, I'm sure that's a sensitive portrayal by that middle-class white guy. That sort. So it's kind of but I mean, I was okay with it, but it definitely sort of raised a few questions. And Thomas Jane, I haven't seen him for 15 years, never mind seen him do good acting before, so that was interesting to see. My other sort of big thing, which again felt out of date, was how happy and eager everyone was to be killing things. Both good guys and bad guys were just brutally murdering anything they could get their hands on. The main character, our hero, at one point talks about how fun it is to kill people. The woman in it, basically the only woman character, she's like a biologist. She's not military trained at all. As soon as things kicks off, she picks up a space gun. She's ready to go.
Even the kid kills someone, doesn't he?
A bit too kill happy.
Well, again, it's a Predator film, and I think Shane Black knows.
But having a kill crazy character makes sense. But I think you need one that isn't as well. You need at least one person going, do we have to kill everyone, guys?
It feels to me like a spiritual continuation of let's just fire the guns into the forest for 20 minutes in the first film, and I think that's okay, and I loved it when that kid put on the Predator mask thinking it was a Halloween costume and then shot that guy in the house for being a dick. I thought that was hilarious. And I get, if that happened in real life, it would be very unpleasant and tragic, but it's a stupid film about an alien killing people. So a bit of dark comedy about a kid accidentally killing someone, I'm all for. I think tonally that fits within the Predator franchise, and you don't have to feel too bad about it. I liked it. 8 out of 10 from me.
Oh, you liked it. I enjoyed it, but I was kind of I wasn't quite sure where I was with it. It just didn't quite hit everything, but there were definitely elements I enjoyed. I give it a 6.
All right, fair.
Okay, so now it's time. We need to go back to Judey. Judey, you can come back in now. Hello?
Oh, that was such a refreshing break. Thank you.
We're moving on to a film now. Hopefully, I'm hoping to God that you two won't argue about it.
Well, I can't promise. I've got strong opinions.
I've got emotional energy to deal with.
I'm probably going to be mediating between you two on this one.
Is it Johnny English?
We're dealing with Johnny English Strikes Again. Judey, you weren't here with us when we talked about Johnny English before, so give us a quick sort of view of your opinion on the first two Johnny English films.
I really liked the first Johnny English film. I watched it when I was quite a bit younger, and it was just really good fun. It was a nice spy parody. I knew a lot of the James Bond films anyway. So I liked the first one. Second one was watchable and fun, but not nearly as good.
Thank you, Judey. Thank you.
You're welcome, Sol.
Because these guys were all like, oh, the second one, what an improvement.
No,
What are you
not
talking about?
Well, I give them
Not
both
at
the
all.
same rating, so I think it was not that much of an improvement.
I'm going to go out on a limb here. I think I just preferred the third one to the second one. However, the third one had some very low moments in it.
Well, that's part of the franchise staple, isn't it?
Yeah. But I think I did actually prefer. I laughed out loud in the cinema. I
It
felt
wouldn't be a
disgusted
Johnny
with
English
myself.
What did you laugh at?
Hey, look, right? I laughed out loud in the office at work when I was watching a screener of this film, so
there
imagine
you
how
go.
I felt.
Yeah. There were little moments that I just a lot
Yeah,
more.
It did
not
make
the
me
big.
laugh a couple of times. It did.
Yeah, not the big comedy sequences because I think they were just painful, but some of the little throwaway moments, I was like, oh, that was good.
Nobody really wanted the sequel, and it felt like nobody who was making it really cared either. And it was just like,
I
oh,
do
let's
wonder
just,
why it got made.
just
I really do
blast
wonder
this
why it
out
got
and
made.
go home.
I think Rowan Atkinson does really care about these, and I think it's kind of
Yeah,
sad. But I do get the impression he's really like.
But you've also, I mean, that ties in with the conversation you were having about Rowan Atkinson in your main episode, which is where you were saying, like, he's the kind of guy that, well, you know, you have to drop the trousers in a certain way to get the laugh, and he kind of really polices the comedy. So it does, you know, it's not surprising to me that he would have invested a lot of time into this, even though we see it as crass comedy, he probably holds it on a pedestal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they still haven't worked out what they're doing with Boff.
Yeah.
I liked that Boff came back, though. I loved Ben Miller as Boff.
I mean, I must
I mean,
say, there
they
was a
made him more of
certain-
an idiot in this one, but...
Yeah, I think that was better though. I think it worked out. You know.
Well, that was it. They still haven't worked out, though. They still haven't worked out what Johnny English is. Is he a total tosser? Or
Exactly,
was he a spy out of time? Like, because the whole point
no,
of this
but that's,
film
you're not meant
is
to
he-
was
know.
that he's an analog spy in a digital world, and that's to his advantage. But it's also played that he's a dick.
But otherwise, there's a risk that he's an unlikable character if he's an absolute tosser.
He is an unlikable character.
He's
Yeah.
not.
He's,
No, you...
He's an arrogant
he's an
dick. all the way
incredibly
through.
unlikable character.
But you have to root for him, so they have to keep it ambiguous.
He's look. If he was just a buffoon, we could get behind him, right? But he is an arrogant, selfish, rude buffoon, and he's not a likable character at all.
I mean, there's something very akin to the British Empire to me, like that Gordon British character, where you like his buffoonery, but you don't root for him.
Shall we talk about the worst villain in the history of film villains?
Hang on, wait,
No,
who's the villain in
well,
this?
The blandest
wait
villain.
Oh,
minute.
the obvious villain, the
No.
obvious one. Yes.
The worst. He's not even the worst villain in this franchise.
What? Why? No,
He was a step
the
up
worst.
from the blandest
Dominic
villain
West.
on Earth in the previous film.
Dominic West.
But there's nothing there. There's nothing there.
He's
Yeah,
he's
I mean,
the
look,
young
he was-
tech guy. It's so
Yeah.
obviously going to be him. He's
Yeah,
so 2D.
yeah.
The villain
No, I
was, I
agree.
think, personally, the weakest thing about this film.
I thought it was an interesting enough new flavor to make the series feel, vaguely interesting, and it felt like a mix. It felt like a missed opportunity if they'd cast someone good.
No,
in the role.
I don't want to. I don't want to
it's-
blame the
Shoot a
actor
scene
either. I don't
bit.
think it's necessarily a bad actor. It's just a
Oh, no,
completely
it wasn't a
pointless,
bad
boring
performance.
character.
But also, it has been so done. The tech thing has been so done.
My point is, Johnny English isn't breaking new ground, and never once has been breaking new ground. And I wouldn't expect it to suddenly start breaking new ground in the third film.
But just write a character, give him a personality, give him something to do, rather than just having,
But-
here's a person. It may as well have been a cardboard cutout of Ted Danson.
Whoa, whoa, whoa. What you got against Ted Danson?
Look, right, in the first film, Pascal Savage is not a particularly interesting character
Oh, he's
Until-
hilarious.
until
He's
you
the best
cast,
villain.
Until you
until
cast
you
John
cast
Malkovich.
John Malkovich.
But also give him permission to do it as a cartoon character.
Yeah,
Whereas this film is no longer playing to that rules.
I agree. And so my point is, this third film, if they'd cast someone better or more interesting than this guy, no disrespect to whatever his name is, because he's not doing a bad performance, but if they'd cast someone and give it, Steve Buscemi and said, just do what you want with it, it would have probably been really interesting.
They should have cast me as Pascal Sauvage.
Oh, it's Scottish. No, it's not Scottish. Who is it? It's French Sean Connery.
Stop French John Malkovich. Nah, French.
Give it to Daniel Radcliffe.
What?
Put him in some weird makeup and tell him, like,
No.
this is your chance to show you can do, like, big character comedy. Just fucking go for it.
Yeah,
shoot the scenery.
in a fat suit.
See what he does. Yeah, put him in a fat suit with big hairy hands.
No.
See what he does. Anyway, I'm
Turn
sick
it on
of
his
Johnny
head.
English now.
We haven't talked about it.
Well, it's exactly the same as the others.
Have you got anything else to say?
No.
I think it was, if anything, it was slightly worse, but it was not a huge difference. It was just felt like watching the same crap again, yeah.
I have a soft spot for the first one. It's not great. The second one, I think, is a step down. But
I
it's
think the first
similar.
one's pretty good.
I think, like I say, I have a soft spot for the first one.
Yeah.
If I'm trying to be objective about it, I don't think it's good. And I think deep down, Judey, you know it's not good
No.
as well.
I think the first one is good as a one-off parody spoof, and that should have just been it. And I would happily give that film a 7 out of 10. The second one, I would give a 5, maybe, or a 4. But
Yeah,
I still
I mean,
enjoyed watching it. I'm not
Yeah,
going to watch
and
it again
I-
and again and again.
And I'm very similar to you there. I think the third one was better than the second one. Not as
Yeah.
good as the first one, but they're
Yeah.
roughly very, very close to each other.
Yeah,
about
no,
as
that's
good
fair
as
enough.
each
They're not opposite ends of the scale, are they?
other. And I would give it a 6. The third one.
Yeah, that's fair enough.
In a kind of good on them for trying kind of way.
Yeah.
Well, I don't know if I gave it a 5. I gave the previous 2 a 6, so that's a bit of a step down, but not huge.
Yeah, for me it goes 6, 5, 6.
So, I mean, the way I feel about Johnny English 3 is the way I felt about the first Mamma Mia. So there you go.
So what did you
About
give
right.
it then?
Probably a 6.
Did it do well? It didn't take a lot of money, did it? Is there going to be another one in 8 years?
Oh God, no! They should stop.
this was in no way a conclusive ending, was it?
No, but
I can't imagine it cost them very much to make it. So I reckon it probably did make a healthy profit. And I bet these films do really well internationally. I reckon,
yeah, probably.
So, Johnny English, pretty much what we expected. Moving on.
Yeah, Judey, you can piss off again for a bit.
All right.
Halloween. Ding dong.
Oh, hello. Who's that at the door?
Hello, it's me again.
Are you trick or treating?
It's Brighouse Bond. Man.
Trick or treat. Oh, Judey. Judey. Oh, you guys have got everyone here. This is a real New Year's Eve party.
So, you weren't on our Halloween episode.
No,
I mean, you
wasn't.
were on the one we did a while ago.
Yes.
So you missed our thoughts and opinions on the many, many sequels.
I know that Alan didn't like H2O.
Yeah, I think neither of us particularly liked any of the sequels.
Nobody likes it.
I do. It would be in my top 50 favourite films of all time.
That's just, I mean, fine.
It would be in my top 50 favourite Josh Hartnett films.
It might just make my top 50 of 1998, maybe.
God. Well, anyway, that was probably my favourite film of the franchise, and certainly the last good one with Jamie Lee Curtis in it. So, very, very excited for this new one. I actually went to the cinema to see this one. One of my few cinema trips this year, because I was that excited. The horror franchises are doing this quite a lot now. Like Texas Chainsaw Massacre does it, where they just keep bringing out sequels, but it's always to the original film and never just...
Yeah, I mean, all the good franchises are kind of just like keeping with the old continuity, but a lot of shit horror franchises are just doing this thing. Yeah.
Oh,
What?
come now.
But yeah, Alan and I, we're not big fans of this franchise at all. I'm not a fan. I love horror, but I do not like slasher films for whatever reason. Don't find them very interesting. Don't find them scary. When it's just a guy with a knife, it's like you can fight back. That's not scary, is it?
Yeah, it's not even horror for me. It's got to be spooky ghost stuff for a horror. This is just a thriller. But I was intrigued by the fact that this was David Gordon Green and Danny McBride. I was definitely interested by that. I thought they were going to bring a new spin on it, maybe.
I can't find anything to suggest this is true online, but I think this might just be me being ahead of like the internet. You know, in the film, well, you know, in the film when they go into a it's like a shop, is it, or a petrol station or something? There's a bit where someone asks the guy behind the counter if they can use the bathroom. That's Danny McBride's voice dubbed in, right?
Oh.
Where's the loo?
Excuse me?
Bathroom?
It's out that way around the back.
I have no idea.
I didn't pick up on it specifically. No, could
It
have been.
sounded exactly like him. I thought, oh, that's Danny McBride's cameo dubbing that line of dialogue in. But I can't find anything online to suggest that that's the case. So I don't know. Maybe not. I think it is. Putting it out there.
As non-franchise fans, how did you feel about this new one?
I mean,
I wasn't expecting much. I mean, we've established I'm a big fan of Judey Greer.
Oh, yeah.
Very much the, I guess, second biggest role, maybe third. Certainly one of the three sort of leads.
I mean, I just don't know what they were trying to do. It started off as one story, and then became something else, and became something else, and became something else. It just kept hitting these dead ends. Literally, because it ended with the characters we'd established being murdered.
Yeah. It was because it kept sort of saying, here's your protagonist for the film. Oh no, they died.
Now that, as a concept, could work, but I think because we have to keep going back to Laurie Strode, then you're losing all that. You know, if you use that as your gimmick, that you're never quite sure who you're following, and then it turns out it's all about just brutal murders, and that's the fun of it. Okay, but yeah, what was it trying to do?
Maybe it was trying to fake you out. I don't know, really. I think it's difficult when you have... Because the story only can really conclude at the end when Laurie and Michael face off against each other, and so much of the plot is just about setting the wheels in motion to get him in the same house as her, because now that he's not her brother or anything, doesn't really care who he's killing by the...
You know what I really didn't particularly like is that this film sets Jamie Lee Curtis up like a Sarah Connor, like she's been the night of the original film traumatized her to the point that she is like anticipating this coming back, and she's been training her whole life for this, you know. And it plays as though she's lived through all of the sequels that don't exist in this continuity. And that's a problem I have with that. It feels as if for that character to be behaving that way, she has to have experienced, at very least, Halloween H2O. And the continuity doesn't make any sense if that's meant to be the case, because this is just a wipe the slate clean. It's a sequel to the first Halloween, not the others.
I think the problem with the character is she was a very unlikable character. She's obviously just a very damaged, broken person who, with all these damaging behaviours...
I think she was just, like you say, very unlikable because it was being played like she'd been through a degree of stuff that she hasn't, and it just didn't quite make sense. So no, I agree. She doesn't really.
But the real problem with that is that as a character is fine, setting that up. The problem with it is that the what happens in the film completely justifies everything she's ever done and all this behaviour.
Yeah,
but
I
it's
didn't
just
mind
not.
that. I thought that was
The thing she was afraid of was complete nonsense, but then it comes true. And that is my main problem with this and the whole franchise, is Michael Myers. That concept of what he is, whatever it is that he is never works for me, because it's just this kind of slightly, we don't quite know if he's supernatural or not kind of nonsense that is never really developed in any way.
yeah.
I guess that's what people like about it, but I just that's the main weakness of the whole thing for me.
For me, it worked because it allowed for a nice arc that plays out, you know, as you'd expect, but plays out properly between her and her daughter, Judey Greer, and her granddaughter. It played for the estranged family coming together, recognizing one another. I thought that worked. I liked that aspect of it.
Yeah, I agree. I liked the whole 3 generations of women, and yeah, I don't know.
So, I mean, Calvin is a fan of the franchise. Would you say this is a good Halloween film? Where do you
Oh, it's certainly a good one. Yeah, I definitely need to watch it again. I've only seen it the once. But yes, very good. It is hard to forget about the other ones, even though they are regarding it from continuity and stuff. I totally get what you're saying about... It does feel like this is the Laurie Strode who survived through several... At least Halloween 2, continued to be terrorized. I hated the ending. I really, really hated the ending. But,
really? Like, which aspect of it? Like, how much of the ending are you talking about there?
I'm talking about the very ending when they trap him. Yeah, basically just when they trap him in the cellar, and it's a great moment for them. It's like, you've overcome this, but then to have them go off, Jamie Lee Curtis is bleeding, so I guess they can write her out if they want to make another one. And then it cuts back to the cellar, the basement, and Michael isn't there anymore. It's just the room is burning, I guess implying that he made it out. And it was just, maybe this is why I like H2O so much, because it did end so concrete, like, yep, you know what, she killed him, she overcame it, that's it, it's done, she won. And no other film ever does that. They all just leave it lingering, and I'm just sick of it. That was another weird thing that I couldn't get used to, because there was so much about this one where it had a lot of the very, they definitely set things up for another one. Like, there's still characters who were there who were introduced, and they've said, which characters?
Yeah, well, no, what setups were there?
Well, like the dickhead boyfriend character, he nothing really happened with him. I guess that's it, really.
I thought that works though, because there is a real kind of, here are three women dealing with shit from men vibe about the film, and I don't say that in a disparaging way. I quite like that. I think it's tapping into an energy that's very prevalent at the moment.
I hadn't really thought that, actually, that they were all women. That hadn't really jumped out at me as a thing. Which I suppose is good. It suggests it's handled well, I suppose, rather than doing it as a gimmick.
And you've got Toby Huss playing the husband of Judey Greer as well.
I thought he was quite funny.
This real kind of just like clueless man. I thought, he was good. I listened to Toby Huss doing another podcast talking about this actually, and it was interesting to hear him talk about Jamie Lee Curtis's work ethic, because to say you think Laurie Strode doesn't come across like very likable, Alan, I get the impression maybe Jamie Lee Curtis just isn't a very nice person. he was saying this as like a nice thing.
So hanging out, so I show up at David's house, and there's a scene when we're all in the restaurant where she comes in and she's a little bit buzzed, and she's supposed to, as scripted, that was in the original script, she shakes Andy's boyfriend's hand, and she goes, "Oh, you got a nice firm handshake, not like Ray here." And she goes, "He's got a limp handshake." And I sort of go, "Oh, okay, all right. And so we just, I read the script a couple of times, and we're standing there, and they go, "Toby, this is Judey." "Oh, hey, Judey, hey, so-and-so." "Oh, great, oh, that's so nice to meet you." And then Jamie Lee's sitting on the couch, and this is Jamie Lee, and I go, "Oh, man, how great." And I shake her hand, and I shake her hand like a regular human would, not thinking about the script, not thinking about anything. This is just meeting her for the first time. And she goes, "What the fuck?" And I went, "What?" And she went, "What the fuck kind of handshake is that?" And I went, "Oh, I'm shaking your, no, what?" And she went, "No, there's a part in the script where because I shake your the boyfriend's hand. He's got a, great, and you got a limp, and try it again." I went, "Oh shit!" And she went, "What are you fucking doing it again?" And
she wanted a limp handshake from you?
She wanted a limp, like she went, "If we're together in a room, we're working on a fucking script.
Holy shit.
We're not hanging out, eating cookies and drinking tea and being nice to each other. No, let's get to work on a fucking script." Man, she's great. She is great. Not messing around, man.
She sounds horrible. She sounds like an awful person. Yeah. But I don't know. I kind of get the impression that maybe she's just not a very likable woman.
That's sad.
But I've been sort of holding my cards close to my chest with this one. I really liked this film a lot.
Oh, wow!
Which may surprise you. I felt like Calvin watching a slasher film. I think it's because this is the first time I've seen a slasher film made by someone who knows how to direct films. Which is not quite fair, but it's an unusual level of competence behind the camera on like a writing front, on a directing front. You don't normally get that in this kind of film. And the end result is, this is a slasher film that is genuinely scary. It is shot and crafted in a way that is brutal and like raw and gritty. It's not the other Halloween films, other than perhaps the first one. They just feel kind of cartoonish and stupid, and it like even when they're trying to be sincere about what they're doing, it's just not done well enough. It just plays like stupidly, and you just think, well, that's fake, that's dumb, I could fight back against that. In this film, the shape is genuinely imposing. You believe that a 60-plus-year-old man could like be actually fucking menacing.
I don't know about that. It's like whenever he's put the masks on, it's like, oh, he suddenly looks more agile and fresh and energetic.
I love the way the film was so stop-start, because no one felt safe. I genuinely, every time I thought, right, well, this character's going to make it through to the end. No, dead. Gone. And brutally gone. He kills a kid right up front.
That's it. Yeah, I agree with that to an extent. And it was a really brutal film. And yeah, the result of that is like you think, oh well, no one's safe. And even like your Jamie Lee Curtis character, she doesn't want to do any more. So you believe that they kill her off even.
Yeah, and when they killed off the husband Ray, I thought, oh, any of the family can go then.
But the converse of that though, the problem was perhaps if they took it too far, because my problem was that because anyone could die, I just didn't get any emotional connection to anyone. It was just like, oh well. It's kind of like, it wasn't because, they might die at the end. It was because they might die on scene 2. And so it was just like, okay, I've already established 4 characters here, and now they're all dead. Like, so I just don't care anymore.
I think that's fair. I think I've never really had any kind of emotional connection with characters in this sort of a film anyway. So it's very much more like an experience and just like a thrill ride. So for me, it's like a series of little shorts where it's like, right, well, I can put myself into the shoes of this character just being chased by this guy. That mean, you can empathize with someone on that base level. Yeah. For me, it worked, and I've never seen a slasher film this effective in what it was trying to do. I thought it was genuinely tense, frightening.
I am surprised to hear you say that, because I know that you're a big fan of the Scream series.
Oh,
but
I love the Scream
That's
films.
a series that kind of subverts the genre while still doing it. Whereas this very much, I was surprised actually at just how much of just a straight down the line slasher film it was. It didn't have many bells or whistles, but it was all done really well.
That's exactly it. That is exactly it. This was a slasher film done well, and I don't think I've ever really seen that before. I love the Scream
they're hard
films,
to find.
But they're, like you say, they're not pure slasher. They're subverting it. They're postmodern. And I thought it was shot beautifully. I thought the music from John Carpenter was fantastic.
I think we're in an exciting time where it's because obviously David Gordon Green and the other one, they were just like fans of the original film, aren't they? And it's exciting to know that people like that want to make these kinds of films and are willing, and people are going to give them money to do it, because I think if these kinds of genres are going to survive I think it's reassuring that it has hopefully moved beyond the, oh god, we need to find someone to direct this on very cheap budget who is looking to break into the movie business or something. Just get anyone.
Most of the deaths in this film are so underplayed. It's like someone will be grabbed from behind and it'll stab them once, and their scream will just go quiet. Like, do you know what I mean? In most of these films, it would be like stab, 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 scream, ah! In this, it's so muted and underplayed, and that is scary because that feels more real and
completely agree.
Helpless.
Yeah. Your favorite of the series?
Easily my favorite Halloween film. I'd say it's easily the best of the sequels. I think you could make an argument that the original, coming when it did and context surrounding it is a better film, but this is certainly my favorite, by a mile as well, by an absolute mile.
Interesting. Yeah. It's not how I felt. Do you know what I think all this is, right? I think this is all since soul split with his ex-girlfriend, and he's just got a much happier outlook on life. he loves everything again. He's just like, hey, life is enjoyable. Look at this great film. I love it. It's like there's this dark cloud been lifted off his.
Well, I mean, I did watch Mamma Mia 2 the other night, so
That's the ultimate test.
Oh, dear.
And I mean, I've been really gushing about it, but I mean, I am only going to give it a Senor Sevens.
No, after all that.
But this is a 7. If I rewatch this film, and I think I probably will be drawn back to this film because it's left an impression with me. And it's one of these things where I've mulled it over, and the more I mull it over, the more I kind of think more of it. I do think this one might bump up to an 8 on a rewatch.
There's an 8 from me.
I give it a 5.
Well, that's not bad for a Halloween film from us.
That's still fair. Yeah.
All right, Suspiria.
Yeah, so next up we've got Suspiria. Unfortunately, I haven't seen it. I missed it. It managed to pass me by because it didn't get a massively wide release.
No, I didn't. Yeah.
And you know, I haven't. It's too soon to find it on DVD or anything like that. So unfortunately, I haven't seen it. But you have.
Yeah.
Okay. I was quite looking forward to see it as well. I'm going to find it out when it comes out, when I can get my hands on it.
I might be wrong here. You might surprise me. My reading of this film, and based on what I know of you, is you would hate this film.
Okay.
If our complaint about the first Predator, the first Suspiria, was that it's too long to say that there's no plot, and it's just getting by on the visuals and the sort of vibe and the aesthetic and the mise-en-scene, and that isn't enough for you, try 2.5 hours of that. Because that's what this film is. Beautifully,
it does look very nice in the
shot,
trailer, yeah.
Beautifully shot. Should be nominated for cinematography at the Oscars. It won't be. And that's about where my praise ends, really. It's got a nice song by Tom York, Suspirium, on the soundtrack. It's a really great song. Probably going to be nominated for the Oscar as well, I reckon, just about. The music, other than that, very bland and uninteresting. There's one scene which is absolutely horrific, really unpleasant to watch. So, you know, in terms of trying to create genuine horror for the audience, hats off to them. And there are a few points in the film where it gets quite gory and very unpleasant, but it's always, you know, it's meant to be unpleasant, so it's done well. But there's no real story. It's just, and I think that's by design. There's just very little plot. It's just about some witches prattling around. And
how do the actors come out of it if there's not a lot to grab hold of like that? Is it good performances?
Yeah, very well acted. Tilda Swinton.
Well, I knew she'd be good, but
well, she inexplicably has a few roles within the film.
Oh, really?
Heavily made up, like Dick Van Dyke style, extra roles chucked in there. No, I mean they're all good. She comes out of it very well. Dakota Johnson, it turns out, can act. Technically speaking, it's a really well-made film. I just don't like what they were trying to make.
Fair enough, yeah.
Yeah,
okay.
Just not great. I give it a 5 out of 10, which is the same score I gave the original Suspiria, actually. It's a really interesting passion project. You know, I like when films like this kind of come out that are clearly what a director just wanted to do. And
yeah.
So, yeah, but 5 out of 10, not a big fan at all.
Fair enough. Yeah, next up is The Grinch.
The Grinch.
We had an episode looking into this. We watched the Jim Carrey version. We saw the Werner Herzog version. So yeah, were they trying to do anything new with it, or was it just the generation we're aiming at is too young to remember the last one, so we're okay?
It just felt like the most lazy, uninteresting take on the concept it could possibly have been. I think a really straight up down the line, we're going to adapt the book or the original cartoon to feature length. I think there's something to be said for that, and that's not what this is. This is DreamWorks have got a formula for making like junk food, family animated comedies that sells. We're just going to emulate that with an IP we've bought the rights to. And I think that's a real shame.
But, I mean, from an animation point of view, from my uneducated point of view, it seemed pretty good.
I mean, it was competent. Nothing. It didn't really do anything remotely new in any capacity. The character designs varied from bland and generic to lifted directly from Dr. Seuss's drawings.
Yeah.
So I can't really give them much credit for any of that. Like, there's nothing really to grab onto here. The sense of humour was just, oh, this is what Shrek ushered in however many years ago, and plot just felt padded.
It was very piecemeal, yeah. There was lots of chunks that you could take that out. You could probably put it in 20 minutes later and it would work. Like, these just chunks, these just scenes you could just move.
Even the cast, the voice cast, I don't think anyone brought anything to it.
Nothing special.
We spoke about Pharrell Williams being brought in to narrate the thing.
I mean, that was a weird choice.
Well, that's it. We kind of thought maybe it'll work just about. No, it doesn't.
No gravitas to his voice. No, nothing to his voice. No, not even personality to it.
Yeah.
So... It felt like someone had won a competition to do the narration.
Yeah, it was awful. Benedict Cumberbatch as the Grinch. I mean, he's
fine,
giving a good performance. He's trying. It's not a voice that suits that character. He doesn't really imbue it with any life. Cindy Lou Who, the little kid, just horribly bland, uninteresting character. It's just a shame because I think there's a lot to work with the Grinch, and nothing's really figured it out yet.
Well, what did you rate it?
I gave it a 5 out of 10.
I gave it a 5 also, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like, you can sit through it. It doesn't do anything particularly bad or offensive. It's just so nothingy and just depressing, isn't it? Happy Christmas, everyone. Fantastic Beasts.
Okay, now we're going back to Chris Hunter because we're going to deal with Fantastic Beasts. So, Chris, welcome back.
Thank you.
You've been gone for about 35 minutes.
Doesn't feel like it.
I assume we're going to edit them together in sort of chronological order.
Right. So, we had a big discussion, the three of us, about Fantastic Beasts and where to find them.
Yes.
Did any of us like it? I can't remember what you said.
Yeah.
I liked it.
Yeah, I thought it was all right. Chris thought it was a good start to a series, I think.
Yeah, it's a good intro film.
Yeah.
I thought it was going to kill the franchise. Now, that didn't happen, obviously. It made this second one. Is this one going to kill the franchise? Because this is just as bad. I
think if anything could kill the franchise, it's this one.
But this is, like, this, for me, this was not, like, particularly, it was sort of the same, really. It was just
really.
I sort of watched this and just thought, I don't know if I've got anything to say. I don't know. It's just past, sort of my eyes were pointed at the screen, definitely. But I don't know.
I'm not a huge Harry Potter guy, but I think they're always sort of fun, watchable, entertaining films. Mm-hmm. I think they're all made to a pretty decent standard so far. So when reviews started coming in for The Crimes of Grindelwald, that's yet another. J.K. Rowling loves names that you read and think are pronounced one way for years, and then you find out years later are pronounced completely differently.
Yeah. She probably saved her surname for long enough. Like, no, it's Rowling, like bowling. Like, you said it was Rowling. No, I didn't.
It's Rowling.
It's not J.K., it's Juk.
Maybe that's where it comes from. It's like, just kidding, it's Rowling.
Yeah, so I went into this thinking, oh, it'll be perfectly watchable. It can't be that bad. And I was blown away by how bad it was. Genuinely, I was not prepared for it. I thought it was awful.
I've only heard bad things, and I've more tellingly, I think I haven't heard much. Like, it just hasn't been popping up on Facebook. Like, I watched this film. It looked great. And given the nature of the scope of the Harry Potter fandom, it's like that's unusual, I think.
Yeah, and I know what you mean. I think it's more of like sort of the black sheep of the series, but the rest of the series isn't done yet. You know what I mean? I think it has that kind of feel to it.
The one that in 10 years' time, people start to go, my favourite one's The Crimes of Grindelwald, and then someone else goes, my favourite one's The Crimes of Grindelwald, and then they like bond over it. And I mean, one of the things that really amazed me is they've made a big thing about how J.K. Rowling's like plotted this all out and knows exactly where it's going.
Yeah.
So if that's the case, why is it so fucking messy? Why is it like they wipe this guy's memory at the end of the last film, and then this film starts them going, "Oh yeah, he didn't really do that. Actually, it was all made up."
Yeah.
And then Eddie Redmayne sort of just not even relevant to the story. What was the story?
The story's trying to find out about the origins of Credence and what the deal is with that kid. And trying to find him, just period.
But I thought he was dead. Why has he come back?
Exactly. Yeah, he came back. I can't remember. I can't remember why he's come back, but he has come back.
And then Dumbledore was in it.
Yeah, and by the way, I don't know all the history of Dumbledore and all that, so this was kind of, I was coming to this fresh. I know him as an old man who's the head of the school, right?
Yeah.
He's obviously younger. He still works at the school, but he's also like the most powerful wizard who's ever lived.
Pretty much.
But people go into teaching because they're shit, not because they're actually good at stuff.
Oh man, I couldn't believe the writing. If I didn't hate you so much, this wouldn't be a problem. But you are the best wizard in the world, so I suppose I'll have to let it slide. I was like, I thought J.K. Rowling was good. This is awful. I cannot believe that.
Yes, there was a fair bit of that. Yeah.
Tell you who surprised me.
I'll tell you who surprised you. Johnny Depp playing David Bowie Hitler.
Yeah. I was all geared up to hate him and think he was going to embarrass himself further. I thought, no, this is Johnny Depp doing everything he does well. This is Johnny Depp being used properly.
Yeah, it was
properly cast. It's a solid Johnny Depp in a blockbuster performance. I thought he was one of the better things in it.
Yeah, I think it works. Yeah, it should be. I think it should be interesting to see throughout this series the development between Dumbledore and Grindelwald, because there's potential that they were actually kind of lovers at some point. So that's where all this stems from.
It seemed completely implied as far as I was.
Well, yeah.
Yeah, there didn't seem to be much doubt about that. He says, I know you were close as brothers. We were closer than that.
How likely are we to get a young Alan Rickman in these films at some point?
Let's hope if they do it like Star Wars, they're not at all. Because I don't want no CG Rickman walking around. That would be sad. But we'll probably see him at some point. I mean, we saw him in a flashback with Hagrid, I think, didn't we, in one of the other ones?
It really felt like Eddie Redmayne's character, Newt, just got completely forgotten about in this. And it
it felt like he was just a conduit to get other characters into it. But also, basically the four main characters from the previous film, or at least our good side, they're all in this, but very much in a kind of like, we've got to put them in there, I suppose.
Yeah.
Newt's quite central all the way through, although it could easily be a different character. It's not really relevant to where we've come from with him. But fair enough, he's like our conduit. He's the one pulling us through it. And they do use the Fantastic Beasts a bit. So it's like, okay, he's involved with that.
Yeah,
but then the other ones are completely irrelevant.
There were some actually quite fantastic beasts in this one as well.
Yeah, like tripping through dimensions and stuff.
Yeah,
at least they would make.
I thought they were cool, man. They were really cool. I think for the time being, they're going to plough ahead with their 5-film series. I don't think it's quite in danger yet. I think what might happen is maybe J.K. Rowling won't get sole writing duties on the next one. Maybe they'll bring someone else in to kind of work with her, tidy it up. Maybe. Don't know.
Well, apparently the next one's based in Rio, so I'm not sure what's going to be there, but that'd be quite different landscapes and such.
But yeah, I like I say, I was just blown away by how not great this one was. I just found it slow, boring, uninteresting.
I found it a little confusing. I don't think I'm alone.
Yeah, confusing, but I don't know how much of that was that I just kind of didn't care anymore and just switched off.
Right. Yeah, I know what you mean. It is one of those you have to kind of keep on track with.
But yeah, I give it a 4. I was very unimpressed. Very unimpressed.
4.
I give it a 5, which is the same I gave the first one. I was just flatlined basically.
Yeah, see, I'd give this one a 6 or 7. I'll go with 6. I'll give it a 6.
Give it a 7 if you want.
No, I'd say 6. Go on, 7. Why not? Let's be nice.
No,
I'm giving it a 7, Alan. I liked it. I think it was a bit confusing, a bit misleading at times, but
you know, Catherine Waterston, who plays the main woman in the first film,
her character is barely in this film at all, and it would make as much sense for her to have been running alongside Newt and Fogel. What's he called? Dan Fogler's guy.
Yeah. Oh,
Jacob Kowalski.
I make cakes.
Like he was in it significantly more than she was, and
They need, with him, they need a moment where he has to like bake something to save the day, and like, so he feels like involved.
Oh, that was so
even
good.
if it's like poisoned cannolis or something that they have to give to someone, it's like, but so that he feels like he's done something that they can't do.
not even poison. I think it has to be legit, true bake job. Like he has to.
The best cannolis. you've ever
There's
tasted.
like a really colourful, like Jabba the Hutt style character who's introduced to like he's got one weakness, a perfect souffle, and then he's like, right, leave it to me. I got this. Finally, I got this.
You. And they're like soufflafious, and it doesn't work.
That'd be amazing.
That'll be the end of the fifth one. That's how J.K. Rowling likes to write stuff, like Neville being the Christ figure at the end of Harry Potter.
Yeah.
Okay, so next we've got Creed 2. And Judey is back in the room. Hello.
Hello. I love that you guys keep calling me today.
Well, you were supposed to watch Creed 2 because you watched Creed with us.
I was. I know.
And you didn't see it, did you?
No. Right, I'm going to lean back. I'm away from the mic.
Oh, God. Right, Alan, do you want to lead the way?
Well, I mean, given that my main problem with Creed is that I don't like Creed, whatever is Don Johnson.
Adonis.
Yeah. That was not changed here. I still don't like him. I find him quite unlikable, in fact. I find him to be quite a nasty little aggressive man.
Well, can I jump straight in on that?
Yeah.
My big takeaway from Creed 2, and I don't think this is intentional, but I couldn't watch the film any other way. I think that Ivan Drago's kid, whatever his name is the hero of this film. I was rooting for him the whole way through. I thought he should have been set up as our hero and protagonist.
Yeah.
He is the true underdog of this piece. He seems to be a good person because there are scenes in this film that set him up as rejecting the aristocracy and the bullshit from which his lineage is that he doesn't agree with. The fact that his mum is a horrible person, the fact that his dad is kind of kowtowing to...
He's been screwed over through no fault of his own, and his dad has taken all his personal resentment out on this kid.
Exactly.
Yeah, you're right.
So I was rooting for him the whole way through. And I went to watch this with a big fan of the franchise who couldn't believe what I was saying when I got out. He was like, yeah, but that's not Creed's fault. And it was like, yeah, but Creed's had his time at the top. He's had his time being a heavyweight champion. I can root for someone else to beat him. Rightfully so. It's not like Rocky IV when he's pumped full of steroids and he doesn't deserve to win.
And the older mentor character there, which is Ivan Drago, his character arc, he's learning the lesson of you need to let go of that old stuff and some things aren't as important. And in fact, my big thing here was at the very end of the film, what should have happened, what a satisfying emotional end would have been, was if Creed kind of lost or threw in the towel or whatever, but knew that it was time to give up and had learned over the course of this film that, you know what, you don't always have to just keep going until you get killed. Yeah. You are allowed to stop and say, you know what, some things are more important. I've got a family.
Exactly.
I've got a daughter. But we don't get that. We just get, hey, keep fighting until you die, because that's what matters.
Yeah, I was expecting that for a bit. I thought that was actually where they were going to go, and I was thinking if they do this could be my favourite Rocky, because they've set this antagonist up so well that I'm actually on his side. I want him to win. Creed will learn a life lesson. It'll be a respectable, nice moment in the film that he kind of does his best and loses. We haven't actually really seen that in a Rocky film yet at the ending. And sadly, they just kind of plow ahead and exactly what you expect. He ends up winning because, But I've got to say, this is so firmly a Rocky film to say that they're kind of selling it like this franchise is standing on its own 2 feet now. It's less like you have to have seen Rocky IV for this to make any sense contextually. Yeah. The cinema was full of 12-year-olds who didn't know what the fuck was going on. I laughed out loud when they announced that the baby was deaf because someone behind me said, What's going on? It means it's deaf. It means it's dead.
That was another weird thing. This surely the whole point is this character, Creed, is supposed to be growing. He's supposed to change in some way, have some kind of character arc that makes us care about him. And it just never comes. It's like always supposed to be there. And for a good example, he knocks up his girlfriend. They're happily married, or I don't know if they actually get married or whatever, but they're happy together. It's all going great. She gets pregnant. They're happy about that. They have a baby, and it's this big moment. It's like at a point in the film where it is going to be this life-changing event for him. It's like going to change his perspective on life. And it's literally like that she has the baby, and they're like, oh my God, we've got a baby. It's so wonderful. It's not deaf, is it? Is this fucking shithead kid deaf? Can we check that out before I start loving it, please?
So we knew that she was going to be deaf in the first one for a reason, and it was going to be set up for something. Now we know why.
Well, even that, I don't know if it's enough of a payoff to justify all of it.
And that's it. It's like a subplot that takes up about 5 minutes. Yeah, but that's it. And they find it's like the whole point of that little 5-minute subplot is just so that we can go, so that he can learn. You know what? Just because she's deaf, you can still love her as your daughter.
And he only learns it because Rocky literally says, "Well, you just love her anyway, don't you?" It's like, oh yeah, I guess I can.
Like he had to learn that lesson apparently, and I'm supposed to like him.
Look, so I feel like I'm being quite down on it. This film opens with Creed becoming the heavyweight champion, doesn't it? And it's done pre-credits. Just get it out of the way.
Yeah.
And I loved that they did that because the obvious thing is we have a whole film dealing with him becoming the heavyweight champion. But I don't care about that. What I want is the way more intricate franchise mythology folding in on itself, complicated shit that we get to 3 or 4 films down the line. And they were like, let's just skip ahead to that. And this film does go to, like you said you thought it was going to, based on the trailer, it does get very dark very early on. There's the big fight at the halfway mark, I guess. And when I was watching it, I was like, right, this feels way too early into the film for this to be the ending. So I guess he's going to lose. And he gets his ass handed to him. And it's kind of to be expected. But I think it's done with a kind of brutal... Yeah, I think it's suitably brutal.
Well, that's also the other problem with it is that he's so completely, utterly beaten. It's like, how did this guy ever win the world? Like, there's no way that the world champion should be this outclassed by anyone. And certainly not then, 6 months later, be better than him again.
It sets Drago up as a super being, essentially. And that's part of why I wanted him to win. Because it's like, this guy is, like, clearly superior. And that's why at the end, I wanted him to come back and fight a respectable fight and still lose. And I could have dealt with that. But, it really leans hard on Rocky IV. And I was amazed, genuinely amazed, at how well they managed to give Drago characterization, the father. Because he is nothing in the 4th film. He is just a prop. It's like a joke how little, characterization he has. And in this film, he's an interesting character. You understand him. It retroactively makes Rocky IV make more sense in a lot of ways. I mean, I wish it had done things differently, but I was still able to just kind of get on board with it and enjoy it and like the, stuff that came close to doing what I really wanted it to do, if that makes sense. Ultimately, I came away really enjoying it. And in my mind, I'm just going to kind of imagine that Drago won at the end, and that would make the film a hell of a lot better.
I like what you're saying there about the young Drago being the hero, because that's definitely how I felt about it, I think, without quite putting into that context. But I just needed all these things that you were saying weren't there. Yeah, they weren't there, so I didn't enjoy it. You obviously got something out of it. Okay, so what would you rate it then?
I'm going to give this one an 8.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow.
I really enjoyed it.
Wow. That is a shock.
A low 8, but it's just about an 8. I gave Creed a 7, and I like this one enough more for it to go up to an 8 from that, so yeah.
Well, I gave Creed a 6, and I gave this one a 5.
Oh, shit. So I'm still here.
And this is me going against the grain and thinking this was better than Creed. General consensus is this is good, but not as good as Creed, but I like it.
Our next film up, and the last one for this episode, is Aquaman.
Ooh.
Judey and I went to see Aquaman together.
Yeah.
And I believe we have similar feelings.
Yeah, well, actually, I started off on a back foot because I resented paying that much for a ticket. So actually, you had a much more pleasant experience than I did.
This was weird, right? We went to a cinema. We went to cinema at the Millennium Dome, right? I've got a Cineworld Unlimited pass, so I can get in. But every screening they had was like 3D, 2D super box.
Oh man, I hate that
super
fucking
screen.
big screen shit.
All
now.
this
I have to
bullshit.
pay like £3.
So I had to pay
watch it on a
£3
bigger
extra.
screen.
Do you know what we got for my £3 extra? And Judey paid fucking £15 or something.
£15.60.
It meant that in some of the scenes, the film was projected onto the side walls.
Which was pants.
For
because
no
the
reason
sidewalls
or
had
benefit.
Panels, so you could see the lines on the
Yeah,
walls.
there was an emergency exit sign
with
in the
a
middle
lovely
of it.
emergency exit sign in the middle of the sea on that wide shot where they're sat
Hang
on a
on.
boat.
Was this the projectionist fucked up? Or
No.
is that what the
Right, so
no,
imagine
Screen
imagine
X. That's
the
what
cinema
Screen X
is
means.
Screen X, right? So the cinema screen is your normal big wide screen, right? And then the side walls that come out at 90-degree angles are plain so that when there's just certain scenes are in like super wide screen.
Literally like five shots.
And so the normal thing, you would just have your normal cinema screen, you still see everything you would normally see, but then they've got like the extra side bits of the super wide
Like an
screen.
extra flap.
They just added a Screen X thing in my local, and I went to watch Ralph Breaks the Internet on it just to kind of see what it was like. And there wasn't anything projected on the walls.
Well, that was it, because
usual screen.
That was obviously
That's
they
'cause
didn't
it's a
film
normal
any
screening.
super wide screen or things like that, and it was only like 4 scenes, and it was pointless because it's at a 90-degree angle. The idea is like, oh, it's like a surround screen thing, like IMAX is, but it doesn't because it's at an obscure angle. Also, obviously, there's nothing in there that you need to see. That's the whole point. So it's supposed to just add to that. All it is distracting you. It's like well, what's
It was
that?
it was distracting.
Awful,
it was distracting
awful
because
idea.
of the panels on the wall because it wasn't completely smooth. Like you could see the lines, the breaks on the wall.
So I would say, I want you to turn that off and don't charge me the £3, and we'll all be happy. So there you go, Cineworld.
£15.60, man.
Sort yourselves out. Anyway, so that was our experience, and unfortunately, the film was not by any means good enough to make up for that.
I don't know. We did laugh out loud a couple of times, but it wasn't for the right reasons.
We
And
did.
we were the only ones. We were the only ones laughing at certain points, and then we didn't laugh when everyone else laughed. It was quite funny.
I did notice that we were it was a packed screen, wasn't it? Which was surprising.
It was really packed.
But there
it was awkward
wasn't
getting in late.
There wasn't a lot of reaction from them, was there? There wasn't a lot of like cheering or anything
until he said like a really shit one-liner, and then they were like,
Yeah, even that, there wasn't a lot of that. I think everyone was like...
No, what? It would have been worse if there was cheering and clapping. You would have just got up and left.
Well, this is my... Okay, overall, and I'm dying to hear what Saul thinks of it, because my feeling generally is this was bad in a way that was hilarious.
Yes.
And I want to know if Saul enjoyed it for that reason.
I don't know what I don't know what I think about this film. I cannot tell how I feel about it. Some of bits of it were legitimately fantastic.
Yeah, like what?
Like the horror sequence when those monsters were attacking them on the boat.
Oh, the trench.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Certain bits where it was really going for broke and it was just mental as well, and I really respected it for it. Bits of it were fucking appalling.
Yes.
And there was no reason or rhyme as to what went where.
The first thing I kind of noted about it, which underpins everything and has to underpin everything, was just that the plot was bloated.
What was the plot? What was it?
Exactly. It had 5 tiers of shit to wade through.
Yeah.
Had a treasure hunt
And it
sequence.
was-
That was the fun bit.
Yeah,
I
the
liked.
first bit was about the family, then it was defeat him, and then it was just continually find this, find this, find this.
And
it was
it's this
save the
globe-trotting
world
thing.
now,
And I went to see this film with a woman, and on the way out of the cinema, I said to her, I genuinely couldn't tell you what the plot was, and I don't know what
Yeah.
just happened.
Yeah.
And she said, yeah,
And
you're
that's-
right. She turned to
But
me at
that's-
one point when they were in the middle of the desert, and then they cut to Spain, and she just said,
Yeah.
how did they get out of the desert? It was like, yeah, hang on, because a minute ago they were complaining about how they were dying and didn't have any water, and they just jumped out of an airplane. That's a fair point. I have to say, I think Jason Momoa is shit. This film has really sold me on the idea that he cannot do comedy. He obviously thinks he can, but he cannot do comedy.
I actually, for all the faults in this film, I actually didn't have too much of an issue with him or his comedy. I just thought the whole film let everything down rather than him in particular.
There were so many moments where he obviously thought he was being really funny, and I thought, you know what? If this was Chris Hemsworth doing that exact same thing, I think he'd sell it. I think it'd be charming.
Oh, of course he would. Yeah.
But this guy going woo or whatever, doing a little face, it's just like a twat. Maybe it's not true, but it's widely reported. Amber Heard gave an interview where she said apparently on set she would be reading in between takes. She likes to read. She was reading her books, and when Jason Momoa felt that she wasn't giving him enough attention, he would rip a page out of her book, sort of like, hey, look at me.
Well, that's just that's a boy in a playground, right? That's the kind of thing Alan would
Yeah,
do.
I think Judey's just thinking, I'm sure that Alan's done that to
the
me.
number of times that's happened to me where I don't pay him enough attention and he pushes me into a lamppost.
Well, that's, yeah, but there's a world of difference between that and ripping a page out of your fucking
No,
book.
he would do it. He would do it.
No, I wouldn't
He's
do that. I respect books.
Yeah, you would. Come on. Well, no, the difference is that you don't have money to replace the book, whereas Jason Momoa
I doubt,
does.
I didn't get the impression that he was buying a replacement book.
Well, I think I fall in the middle a little bit there because I don't think he's quite got the right charm to get away with it. But I never disliked him either, to be honest. Like I was
that's
fine
how I
with him.
felt.
It's just
And I thought the rest of the cast were
standard,
not good at that. I mean, I like Amber Heard. I love Willem Dafoe.
Quite forgettable, yeah. Willem Dafoe.
Just completely wasted.
Even that, yeah. That's the least Willem Dafoe bit of Willem Dafoe ever, yeah.
Patrick Wilson, we've spoken about him before, being a surprisingly dependable actor when he's called upon, but utterly wasted in this film. The most bland, uninteresting villain.
Wasn't it? Oh, but the costumes.
Oh, the costumes were fantastic.
They were ridiculous.
She has
Nicole
fucking jellyfish
Kidman's was possibly
dress.
the worst.
Yeah.
Well, no. What about at the end
she's wearing
when she comes back and she's
coloured bone suit?
No, when she comes back at the end and she's got like a crab claw and like dinosaur bones all over her.
Yeah, exactly. It was just ridiculous. There was something
brilliant.
No, there was something that made that not work. Like it wasn't. It was stuck between these two worlds of whether it was like a really full-on cartoon film or this kind of more trying to be more serious superhero film, and that was a classic too far in between. It was just this actor dressed in a stupid costume, probably thinking, "Oh, this will look all right on film," and it doesn't.
Also, when she hugs her son and she's got like a pufferfish shoulder blade,
Yeah, she stabs him in the
cheek. Stab him in the cheek.
I was waiting for him to kind of go, "Ooh, you spiked me."
Yeah,
Sorry.
that would have been genuine.
I thought there was a joke coming on that. Yeah, they didn't use that.
No, I thought the one place this film excelled was its art direction and it's encompassing.
No, it was just too
costumes and stuff.
cartoony.
No, I know. I think the moments when the film fully embraced that were when it worked for me. It was
They
when
were riding
when
sharks.
it awkwardly fell into attempts at grounded and realistic that it didn't work. When it was full-blown Power Rangers nonsense, it was like, okay, I get what this is meant to be.
But that was it. If it had committed to that, I could at least go, okay, I don't really like that sort of thing, but that's what they're doing. But it wasn't.
Yeah.
It was trying to do two
flips
things
between
at once.
them.
My biggest issue is the way they set up a villain who like has loads of screen. Well, no, you forget he's in the film until like 40 minutes later. Then he has loads of screen time, setting him up as the villain, and then he just vanishes. Well, he gets killed.
Is that the Black Ant-Man?
Black Manta.
Manta?
That's what he
Oh,
called.
I heard Lantern.
He says like, "Call me Black Manta" or something.
Well, he said, "Call me Black Manta," and I didn't hear it.
He says, "Call me Black Manta."
Is that an animal? A manta?
Manta Ray.
A manta, yeah, like manta ray, yeah. That was awful, wasn't it?
He looks more like Ant-Man than an Ant-Man.
Because they waste like a whole scene setting up him and his dad that we don't need. Just bullshit, boring bollocks.
Yeah.
Not a particularly interesting
2 hours, 20
performance.
minutes
I've never seen the actor in anything else, I don't think. But then they kit him up with all this Atlantean technology, and it's really like amazing stuff in this costume. And you think, oh, that's the villain. They've just set him up. Then they have an 18 montage of him inexplicably learning how this amazing technology works and like fiddling around with it as if it's not good enough already.
Yeah, I was wondering why he was taking it apart.
Yeah, he was like, "This gun is good, but I needed to mount it on my face."
That's it. And like what the and spray painting it black, so it's
That's
like
his
all
shtick,
the
innit?
other
That's his
costumes that
style.
are already black. But this was a special white one. It like what the just put the costume on. That's fine. If he's just got the costume on, that's fine. And then he's like immediately dispatched within 5 minutes of attacking him when he shows up. The music in this film, can we talk about that?
Oh god.
Don't remember it.
Oh my god, what was going on? So some of the music in this film is fantastic. A lot of it feels very much like someone watched Thor Ragnarok and went, oh, let's do that. But when they've got this kind of 80s electronic, almost chiptune kind of beeps and boops in there, I thought that was great. It fit the vibe of the film. It was nice. Then there are all these musical sequences, mostly between Jason Momoa and Amber Heard, that it's just like blink, 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 Mickey Mouse scoring, like rom-com music when they're in the desert. And I've been looking on the soundtrack to dig up some clips of this to play to you. It's all been left off the soundtrack. It's a weirdly abbreviated soundtrack. And I don't know if that means that was library music that was like just pulled in on top of the stuff that was written, or if they're embarrassed by it and have left it off the soundtrack. But it is not on the soundtrack, I'm telling you now. And then, of course, we've got Pitbull covering Africa by Toto, which is just unforgivable.
Oh, that was diabolical.
Because they're in Africa.
I did turn to Alan at that point, and I was like, what? What the fuck is this?
Well, let me tell you the biggest laugh I got. Octopus playing the drums.
Fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
But that was the point where I was just like, what are they doing with this film? Is it a comedy? I can't figure out where they're trying to set a tone on this.
Do you want to know a bit of information about what that is?
Okay, go on.
That octopus is a character called Topo, who is Aquaman's octopus sidekick, who I think is quite a big part of Aquaman lore from like the 60s, when it was at the height of camp.
That does make a bit more sense that they've just dropped it in as a little kind of Easter egg or whatever.
You know what? I think if Aquaman had been like that all the way through, it would have been great. The problem was it pulled its punches too often.
Yeah. Will there be an Aquaman 2?
No.
Well, you know what I was thinking?
Well, I mean, there will be because
I don't know.
Hollywood loves money, but
I don't know.
That's what I mean. Will there be? Was this a success? Was this good enough to get a second film?
DC doesn't know what it's doing anymore. I wouldn't be surprised if DC just properly wiped the slate clean at some point. But the thing is, they're too invested in Wonder Woman and what they've got going with Wonder Woman. I think we'll probably see more of Aquaman, but it might be in a very different capacity. And what I was thinking watching this film is, I want a Thor Ragnarok. I want Aquaman, but like Superman is stuck underwater with him. I just need like someone to play off him a bit.
Isn't that what Justice League was meant to be doing? I mean, I haven't
well,
seen
kind
it,
of,
but
I don't know if I want like 5 or 6 characters I've never met before being introduced and bouncing off each other at the same time. I think I just want a nice dynamic of like, that kind of buddy cop thing.
There were just so many bits that annoyed me. I don't think I'm going to.
Well, everything was like a 50-50 toss-up, whether or not I liked it or hated it, and it just kind of bounced back and forth that whole way through. I hated bits of this film. I loved bits of this film. All the reviews that I've read have said something along the lines of, this film is dumb and stupid, but it's insane enough that it's maybe worth a watch, which I think is fairly accurate, to be honest.
So let's just give it a rating, and I'll set this stall out straight away. I gave it a 3.
Whoa! Wow.
I'm gonna go 4.
All right, well, I give it a 6, but like I say, I'm really struggling to figure out which parts of this film I actually like, and like that's not I don't know how accurate a 6 that is. I'm not going to stand by it.
Okay, so that is our review of the year. Basically, that's it. It's been the longest one yet. This is our longest episode ever.
Probably.
He says before the edit.
Yeah, it's going to be that.
We can't possibly know. Cool. All right. Well, thanks, guys.
Yeah, all right.
Thank you.
Come back in 2019.
I've done a little game to cap off the year.
Oh, I'm back, am I? This is nice. Well, thanks for having me back again.
I'm just scrolling through my ratings to see if anything I've liked, and there isn't anything.
No.
And certainly no new releases or anything. It's just.
But yeah, I've done a little capping off the year music quiz.
Oh, nice. Yeah, love the quizzes.
So yeah, I just want you to name I mean, if you can name anything like who it's by or the name of it, fine. But we're looking for the film it's from. These are all songs or bits of score from films this year. It's a good mix of stuff in here. I think you'll get some of these. You won't get others. So.
Okay.
Just a quick interlude here. I was just scrolling through my ratings. The last thing that I saw at the cinema that I gave an 8 out of 10. I was looking 8 or above, but there's no 9s or 10s or anything here. That I gave an 8 to was Downsizing.
Oh, fuck right off.
in February.
It's not even good. That's the thing. I thought it was going to be like, you know, I thought it was going to say like Gladiator in like whenever that came. But...
No, just to really appreciate the kookiness of it.
Wow. I mean, to say you're someone who complains about a film being tonally inconsistent and messy.
Yeah, exactly. That was funny though. But I think, to get an 8 out of 10 for me, having to go back to the Oscars, like Shape of Water, I gave 8 out of 10 to.
Well, we're just gearing up for Oscar season, so it feels like a bit of a weak Oscar year this year. I don't know, nothing looks that interesting, and I've watched a few of the films that are probably going to be nominated. Anyway, more on that in a few months. Hey.
If you, listener, if you have any ideas of films you'd like to see or hear us do, then do by all means get in touch. Let us know. We are available. We have an email address, don't we? That we don't really put out very often. What is it?
dimreturnspodcast@gmail.com.
Yes. It might be easier to contact us through a Facebook. We've got a Facebook group.
We check that a lot more.
Yeah, so our Facebook group is facebook.com/Diminishing Returns podcast.
And the Twitter page, if you want that, which I suppose we might as well drop it in because we're doing all this now. Twitter is twitter.com/DimReturnsPod or just @DimReturnsPod.
Yeah, go to dimreturns.com and you'll find the links to everything there. You'll find our entire back catalogue, all the Diminisodes, the extra bits we throw out. There's reviews on there.
Right. Do you want to buzz in, I guess?
Okay, yeah.
My buzzer is Awooga!
All right,
like
Calvin.
John Fashanu, you know? Did you get that reference?
Nope.
Okay.
All right. Should we start?
Yeah.
All right.
Awooga!
Yes, Alan?
That's got to be from Deadpool 2.
That is
X-Force.
That is the reprisal of the Deadpool rap from the first film. X-Force remix, Team Head Kick from Deadpool 2.
Stomp the toes, ear smack from the back, then bust the nose. Wham, bam, time to get fuck slam, putting in work, going hand to hand. Kick him in the knee so hard it buckles, quick uppercut, left, right with knuckles. Hot brass, smash a bottle, whooping that ass.
Awooga! This is a total guess, because I haven't seen it yet, but is it Suspiria?
No, but that is a very good guess. Very good guess.
I have no clue.
No, it's
no.
It's the rather lovely score to First Man, which I did not care for, but I did like the music.
Really?
Oh, Alexander Desplat, is it? Desplat.
Yeah. Although it weirdly makes heavy use of the exact same melody as
Lion King 2?
Drink With Me Today's Gone By from Les Miserables. Just thought I'd drop that in there.
Oh,
so we liked it.
Interesting.
Drink with me 2 days gone by. Sing with me the songs we knew.
All right, next one.
There are only so many melodies.
Yeah.
Is the darkness.
Awooga!
That's Radiohead,
That's
isn't
Suspiria.
it?
That is
it's Tom York. Yeah.
That is Tom York, yes. Calvin, were you saying Radiohead?
Yes.
Well, that is Tom York of Radiohead, so I mean you
Oh!
you are correct, but Alan beat you to it, I think.
Do I get half a point?
No.
No, because Alan said Tom York and Suspiria. I think Alan gets 2 and you get none.
Nah.
Alan's on 3. Calvin, catch up. My hot tip is this song will be nominated for the Best Original Song Oscar. Okay, next. Yes?
That's got to be some sort of Star Wars film. Solo?
No.
Is it Incredibles?
No.
too?
No.
Oh. Sounds like Sean Connery hitting a tarantula. Bram, bram. It isn't Jurassic World, is it? It's not Pacific Rim Uprising.
No. I mean, very good guesses. It's not Jurassic World, it's not Pacific Rim, but very good guesses. I doubt you're going to get this one, but that is the one moment, the one Easter egg that really did make me very happy in Ready Player One. That is the moment in which the classic Godzilla theme is worked into the film score.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Very good, very good.
All right, Calvin, you're going to start winning these back now, I think. So, Alan, stay alert.
It's James Bond. Oh, it's Shallow. Lady Gaga. Bradley Cooper, A Star Is Born.
What was that? I didn't even hear it.
So quick. Wow.
I know her voice too well.
What was it?
Lady Gaga and Bradley Cooper, Shallow.
From A Star Is Born. Hot tip. Not only will this be nominated for Best Original Song, this one will win Best Original Song.
Oh, for sure. Yeah.
Oscars.
Definitely. Oh, it gives me goosebumps. I love it.
I don't even like the film. I'm not even like a big Lady Gaga person, but it is a great song, I've got to say. It is. All right. Bit of a weird one now. Let's see if either of you can get this.
Feels very old school.
Yeah.
It's like this could be Metropolis soundtrack.
Yeah.
The workers for the factory.
It isn't Solo, is it?
No.
Ooh, I'll have a guess. The Blade Runner film.
No.
Oh.
Shall I give you a tip?
Okay.
All right.
Or a clue, as it's commonly
Well, this is another hot tip for the Oscars.
Just the tip.
I think this is a lock for Best Animated Film of the Year.
Ooh.
Not to win it, but to be nominated. No, it's Isle of Dogs.
Ah. Yeah. Okay.
Welcome back, watch your head. Hate to see you end up dead.
Let's get this party rolling.
Oh, it's Oh no, it isn't. Nope. Keep going.
And burning tires. That great white in the sewer. You'll be happy that you knew her. Fin bomb dogs and cats, they sure taste great.
With a side of license plate.
Some find us deplorable.
Well, I think you're adorable. We may be a motley crew, but our hearts ring true.
And just for you, a face tattoo.
Oh, this is gonna really annoy me. I've not seen it, but I should know it.
I mean, there's a couple of pretty recognizable voices in there. One very.
Yeah, I know.
Voice.
Yeah.
Was it Wreck-It Ralph 2?
Yes, it was. Ralph Breaks the Internet.
Damn it!
That was a bit of a guess, but yeah, there wasn't that many options.
All right, let me see. So we've got this next one's very difficult. Then we've got some ones that I think you should be able to get everything apart from the next one. I'd be amazed if either of you get this one, but I'm
it is.
No.
No.
You're not going to get it. It's from The Girl in the Spider's Web, which I don't think anyone has seen. You know, I quite like The Girl with the Dragon Tattoo, the English language remake. I did not like the new one. Stephen Merchant's in it.
Oh, interesting.
It's beautifully shot, and the music's very nice, but it's not a good film.
I've been overlooked, slept on, stepped on, left for dead. Always against all odds, like Pac said. I'm the living great Gatsby, but these boys are watching quick and disappear like Banksy. From ocean to ocean, sea to sea, I'm something that you gotta see.
Gonna take a love to drag me away from you. There's nothing that 100.
Oh, it's a cover of an existing song, isn't it?
I know what it is.
I was going to say, Alan, I'm amazed you've not buzzed in. Or have I just not heard?
I thought I'd give Calvin a chance. Yeah, I know what it is.
No. Is it a cover of an already existing song?
Kind
Yeah,
of.
yeah.
Yeah, I mean, they've taken the chorus and done it weirdly.
Oh, I don't know. Is it Deadpool?
No.
2?
No, it was Aquaman.
Inexplicably, Pitbull decided to kind of half cover, half talk over the top of Africa by Toto. And we were left with that.
It's completely explicable. Yeah. It's because they're in Africa in that scene.
Fuck's sake.
Oh, dear.
What a load of shit. I mean, people are calling for him to be tried for crimes against humanity, and I don't think that would be an overreaction.
I'm not doing very good at this. I am very hungover. Very hungover.
Word around town that they coming from my head though. Funny thing about it, they don't know what's in my head though. Schizo, maniac, finna go klepto. So hands on, it's gonna hard for me to let go. Lego, my ego in the same boat with a slow leak. Screaming at the world till she prego. 2 middle fingers to you all till I'm ready to go.
It's Creed 2.
Oh.
I'm amazed that took us. Again, were you just letting Calvin catch up?
Yeah.
I just
thought there's no way he's seen it. I'll just give it.
Tell me who's gonna save me from myself when this life is all I know.
It's Bruno Mars. Is it?
It's not Bruno Mars.
Oh.
I mean, unless he's in a band and goes under another name, I don't know about.
No.
Who gon' pray for me? Take my pain for me. Save my soul for me. 'Cause I'm alone to see. If I'm gon' die for you, if I'm gon' kill for you, then I spill this blood for you. Hey. I fight the world, I fight you, I fight myself.
Is it Black Panther?
Yes. Well done.
Hooray. Would you have got that, Alan?
No, I didn't know that one.
That song has not qualified for the Best Original Song Oscar for whatever reason. A different song from Black Panther has. But I would give that the award, personally. It's my favourite song from a film this year.
Really?
Yeah. It's not like me, is it? I'm not normally into that sort of stuff.
That's not a very interesting song.
No, it's great. It's great.
Oh, it's Halloween.
It is Halloween.
Yeah, it sounds very Halloween-y. Yeah.
It is Halloween. Right, Calvin. You can at least end respectably close to Alan, although you can't win at this point. So let's see.
How many more are left?
1.
Oh,
but if my math, so if I've had it up correctly, right, Calvin, you're on 3 points. Alan's on 7. But this next one is actually worth 5 points because I've just decided. So
I like this game.
Let's see what happens, shall we? We'll have the rest of that clip and then the final one.
Okay. Yeah, I really liked this score. That was really good.
C'est un bon gant, danser un bon gant.
It's not a Despicable Me film, is it?
No.
Okay, I thought it might be Minions.
See what you think.
It is a film we've covered on the show, though.
Oh, really? Oh, Star Wars.
Oh,
Solo.
He's done you, Calvin. He's done you.
Yeah, there's this scene where they're singing in the cantina.
That's the classic Star Wars Jabba the Hutt style nonsense song. One of my favourite bits in the film was when they did that.
Yeah, it was a good bit of that. Yeah,
Song.
I like the future music. Long time ago music.
The song's called "Chicken in the Pot," and I believe it's performed by like a sort of quote unquote sexy alien woman and like a weird little blob in a jar, and I thought it was really funny.
Yeah, that was good.
All right.
So I believe I won that quiz 12-3 then.
Yep.
I mean, I normally win, and I'm not on top form today, so I think it should stand. Yeah. Right. Well, there we go. Another year.
Well, thanks, Calvin, for.
No, it's been a pleasure as always. It's nice. Nice to pop by, say hi, meet the rest of the people as well.
Oh yeah.
What's that, Judey? What? Oh, right. Yes. We'll pop out for a drink afterwards.
Drink here.
Oh.
Bye.